Hey, let's start the show.
It's June 7th, 2012. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Joining me today, after a late flight in last night and an early wake up this morning, Norman Chan. How you doing, sir?
Extra punchy. I think we're all extra punchy today.
How, are you, is this punchy like the day after CES punchy?
No, we had a good warm-up.
Yeah, we've been talking
really
for a
good
while.
warm-up.
We blew a lot of good material, I think, actually. Gary Witta, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, actually. I was just admiring your new Slave One over there. It fits in very well with the other models.
Yeah,
It's dangerously close to the edge, though.
I live on the edge, Chan.
You know what they say? If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're not living on the edge, you're dying. Doesn't
Okay,
make as
all
much
right.
sense, I guess.
But that was we did a little building. I haven't built Lego in a while, but we built some over the weekend, and you built a Slave One, and it came out great. It's a great model.
I stand by. I mean, for people watching the video, you can kind of see in the back. Will has
Not at all.
the Tantive 4 and the Slave 1.
And the MIDI Star Destroyer.
and also the Guggenheim. I guess that's what it is.
that's
Guggenheim.
that's the Solomon Guggenheim Museum. Yeah,
I think that this little mantle here on the back you can only put one piece of Lego.
I agree.
It needs to be the Tantive 4.
the Blockade Runner is a
Blockade
fantastic
Runner,
model.
It looks great. I think you're cluttering it up that space.
No,
and
I think it looked good. Yeah, I mean, this stuff's good. That's the problem with Lego
I'm
is that once you build it,
self-conscious.
it's got to go
you
someplace.
should be self-conscious. It looks-
I'm taking all my Lego to the office when we get
You
get
should,
in.
and just
I'm
keep-
putting it
keep
on the
this-
shelf up above the
That's a good
desks,
idea.
Keep
and
the
it'll be on
Blockade Runner.
display. I'm really take them all in.
Nah, keep the
No,
Blockade
you want to
Runner.
have one good
Yeah.
collection all in one place.
Yeah, you want to have it's my.
That's what I
it's
like.
on loan
Exactly.
to the Berman Braun offices.
That's what you should do. You should have a little on loan from the private
Courtesy.
collection of Will Smith.
Exactly.
And we'll all have contributions.
Yeah. So let's see. This has been a big week. E3 Tuesday, Wednesday. We went down and met the new corporate overlords on Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. Let's see what else. Well, I mean, we met some of them before, but we went to the office. We went to the home office, which we'd never done before. We were in LA. We had some amazing sushi. We want to talk about the sushi?
No,
I don't want to tell anybody where that place was.
I don't want to tell anyone.
Yeah, no, it's a bad idea.
It's very LA.
We probably shouldn't have tweeted it then.
No, I pathed it.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
no one's on Path.
No, just you.
Yeah, that's fine.
just friends.
It's you and my three interesting friends.
That's what
are on
Path is good for, is if you want to kind of share something just with a handful of people
Yeah,
and not
that's what I
the
use it
big
for.
So
group.
even though E3 is this week and it's a whole week, our friends at Giant Bomb still there right now. Kind of surreal coming home last night and watching the Bombcast live in a place that we were just at 24 hours.
Still going
previously.
strong.
I just want to say. So I listened to the day zero on the way in with Pachter and Jeff Green, the gamer dad Jeff Green, and Brad Muir, who we bumped into on the floor yesterday, and it was a little bit weird listening to that, knowing what an incredible shithole that place is.
Oh, is it the same house they had before?
no,
it's worse.
It's worse than the old Bombcast house because that place was fucking
it's
terrible.
dramatically like.
It's so downtown LA.
Paint a word picture, Norm.
I guess I'm not going to give away the location. Somewhere in the heart of downtown LA.
It's between furniture
I mean,
stores.
the one that I went to, maybe it was
in
last
South
year.
Central.
It was like a goddamn crack house.
But it was a house. This is a store. This is
an abandoned
Where do they
storefront.
find these places?
Storefront that goes deep, 2 stories.
There's like a loft. Like it's the kind of place that you go in and there's a stairway made of skateboards, and then the other stairway up to the lofts, the dude who made the stairs was bad at carpentry, so the stairs are different heights.
Yeah.
Like one step will be real short and one step will be real long, and there's also what's the name of the board that goes behind the vertical one on a stairway? There's a
know.
word for that. But none of those. So
Where do they find these awful places?
I think Ryan
And
just goes to Cracklist.
Crack
It really,
It's Craigslist for crackheads.
totally looked like a crack house.
Yeah.
On a second floor, just like mattresses on the floor
It was a nice mattress. Kind
and
of
a
used.
desk with one light. Yeah,
It looked like
I'm
a scene
surprised
from
there's no
Seven.
glass
It looked like David Fincher
on the
might have shot
floor.
something there.
Why not just get a nice hotel suite?
You mean classy? Like tested
Like the way
style?
you guys roll.
Oh.
I mean, you'd think with CSI money, those guys could fucking blow it out.
Hawaii 5-0, NCIS. I mean, that's,
It's America's #1 network.
it is for old people.
Yeah. Well, they're old.
It's true.
Yeah. So
Jeff Green and
So
Michael
we were
Pachter.
saying, even though we were there and only were at E3 for one day, we were still just as tired of them because we had a whole different experience. We had the Entourage experience.
I kind of
How so?
We went to our the offices of the company we work for now, Berman Braun, and it's in Santa Monica. Totally, it was like going into Miller Gold agency.
Wow.
I don't know if it was. I mean, there was a very.
I had
like-
never had the LA experience before,
Yeah.
where you walk in and there's a production company here,
Oh, yeah.
and
Pretty much
movie
all they are.
posters.
Law offices and production companies.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, and we like went out for the lunch and did Santa Monica kind of stuff and yeah,
LA's a good town.
yeah.
It's not a
fun.
great city, but it's a good city. There's good stuff there.
It's
not
growing
a
on me.
cloud in sight.
It's
Yeah, I
growing
mean,
on
obviously,
me.
weather is one of the benefits for sure.
Yeah, it's not someplace I'd want to be like a single 23-year-old dude with no money and hard on my luck. But as I
you're,
get older, and
You
I'm
mean like
less-
half the population of LA?
yeah, pretty much
Waiter.
everybody there.
Yeah, with,
yeah.
with a screenplay in hand and another
Yeah.
screenplay in other hand.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be reading screenplays while you're working at Denny's. But no, it was fun. It's growing on me as I get older, which is interesting. So yeah, E3. Well, we'll talk about E3 in
We
a bit. Let's see. We were talking about these brownies, which I'm going to eat some now. A minute ago.
Not just brownies,
Leah made these
cookie
for us.
brownies.
Yeah.
Never heard of them before.
This is like the pizza.
Cookies baked into brownies.
It's the Pizza Hutification of baked goods. It's like the hot dog pizza.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the market now and you see like DiGiorno sells like pizza and wings in the box together.
WYNGS.
Or like PB&J that's all
Wings.
it's kind of like that PB&J that's all swirled into one jar. And some of this stuff seems kind of wrong, but I don't know, I like this. A cookie brownie.
These are delicious.
You get over whatever ethical objection you have to it very, very quickly. Basically, the second it goes into your mouth.
Yeah, once you get a bite of brownie and cookie together, you realize that these are two great tastes that taste great together.
It's great stuff. And it's just a Sara Lee, you know.
You know, Sara Lee, you told me something that doesn't surprise me at all now that I hear, but they're changing their name.
Apparently, but Sara Lee is changing its name. It's just something I saw on a news ticker when I was watching the news the other day.
Was
Don't
there
know
ever a
why.
real Sara Lee?
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a good brand name because even though obviously something like Sara Lee is a massive company and probably just part of an even more massive company.
Well, they probably don't
Like
think it's a
Sara
great brand
Lee,
name.
Betty Crocker, those kind of names make you feel like all this food is actually coming to you from like a little white-haired old lady in her kitchen.
There's a difference though, because Sara Lee, it makes me think of like freezer pound cakes, whereas Betty
Pound
Crocker
cakes for sure.
Betty Crocker
brownies.
is like the mixes that you
Yes.
add your own eggs and oil to, and then
Yeah.
chuck in the oven.
Cardboard
So, like,
boxes.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
but this is the same Sara Lee. This came from a Sara Lee.
No, I
the
know.
oil and the eggs.
but I think they've transitioned into that away from the freezer cakes and freezer pies. Because Sara Lee used to be like, you go get a cherry pie and it's already made, and you just put it in the oven for 20 minutes and it
Right.
heats up, and then boom,
Right.
you have a pie.
No, the Hostess has that market now.
I don't think Hostess does that stuff at all, do they? Really?
Well, they do the pie in a packet.
Wait, what? Well, that's old.
Wait, are you saying which do you find more objectionable, the mix that you make or the ready-made? Just put it in the oven. What are
don't-
you saying is worse?
what is hipster will?
Yeah, like when you bake,
Connoisseur of food.
Yeah.
if you bake
baked
cookies,
goods.
will you ever bake from a mix, or will you always insist on baking from
I
scratch?
have been known to bake from a mix on occasion.
If you don't have powder, if you don't have flour in your face at the end of it,
Well, but
it's not worth eating.
Well, here's the thing: cakes are hard. Like making cake is a hard.
A good cake is hard.
cake is a high skill thing.
Very
Like
difficult.
A bundt cake is, I think, fairly significantly easier than like a layer cake. It's very hard to make a layer cake. from scratch.
Anytime you're doing layers,
Right.
it's very difficult.
That's why those shows are so successful.
Oh yeah.
Well, but
Boss
that's a
and,
whole different thing.
You know, the
I mean,
dwarf cake.
that's not
little
that's like a
lovable
Jedi
cakes
level of
and
cake
cake farts.
making. But even just making a basic cake that comes out basically straight and all the levels are parallel, like that's not easy to do.
Well, the way you do that is by cutting the top off, and I've done that before. It's not like the end of the world.
It's a lot of waste.
It's all afternoon. Well,
Yeah, but no, but
ends
you
up
eat
eating-
that.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
all
what?
straight down the gullet.
Once when you're baking, this is one of the great things about baking a layer cake. When you bake when you select, you basically when you make say a very simple layer
Yeah.
cake, you bake two separate cakes and you put jam and cream or
Frosting
whatever on
or
the top of
whatever,
one,
yeah.
and then put one on top of the other. But you have to cut the top off for it to
Yes.
be straight.
If it's
when
domed.
you cut the lid off the bottom layer, the first thing you do is fucking eat that shit, right?
Straight in the
like a
gullet.
muffin
Yeah.
top. It's like you get rid of the muffin top.
It is. It's a
stack
muffin
two
top, and
muffins.
you
It's a
eat
cake
it.
top.
Sometimes what I do, depending on the type of cake.
Oh, I
the
forgot to
chocolate
tell you,
cake-
I did the double stack filet of fish this week.
Oh, gross.
Wait, homemade?
Oh, I buried the lead.
Self-made or
No, I went to McDonald's where my local McDonald's has two filet of fish for $1.
$1?
Oh, sorry, for $4. Two for $4. So that would be crazy.
What?
If they're two for $1, I wouldn't be here now. I'd be at McDonald's. Two for $4. So I ordered the two for $4. disassembled one,
okay.
took the
Yes.
extra patty, put it
Yes.
in the first one, and made a double stack.
You made it yourself. Very
for the fish,
MacGyver.
and it was great.
You know, you could make a Big Mac out of that if you took the bottom bun of the second filet.
Well, they also do 2 Big Macs for $4, and I did consider a Quad Mac, but I thought that might
I
be
am
too-
shaking my head.
That is a quad core Mac.
damage.
This is such a bad idea.
I made a quad core.
So yeah, I like to take the leftover scraps of and dump it in a glass of milk. And you get like a cake. Well, it's cake in a cup, basically. It's like a cake.
And then what do you do? You eat like the mushy
like
cake with a
drink the
spoon or
mushy
something?
cake.
In a cup with milk is the worst thing because you got to scoop out with your finger.
No, just a
afterward.
little bit of milk. Just like a 2 fingers of milk.
Just to kind of soften it up.
Yeah, you just want to have a little, get a little,
Yeah,
little
yeah,
liquid.
it's
Make
like-
it a slurry.
You know, I've never been one to dunk. In England, it's very popular with tea.
Yeah.
When you have tea and biscuits, you take your bourbon biscuit or your rich tea, whatever you have,
Yeah.
and you dunk it in the tea to soften it up a little bit. And I've never liked that.
Well, I do that with Oreos sometimes, but that's pretty much my.
Oh
only
no, I
cookie
do like
experience.
dunking Oreos in milk is the exception.
Yeah, they get.
But you don't want it to get soggy.
You got to time it exactly right. There's like a 3-second window.
Yeah.
It's the optimal.
You
dunking.
can't dunk and then like get distracted.
How-
You got to dunk and then it's straight in.
I used to have an uncle who made what he called an Oreo casserole, which was a thin layer of milk on the bottom. You layered a whole shitload of Oreos and then put some ice cream on top of that and then more Oreos.
He's a
He
fucking
has
mad
diabetes
genius
now, actually. Yeah. Kind of sad story, I guess, when I think about it.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Leah, for the brownie
Cookie
cookie.
And if,
brownies.
and if you don't like hearing us chewing on the podcast, send your Twitter messages to @Lee. And remember that
The
she's
only
very
thing
pregnant
that you
right
could
now.
do to make these better, and this is true of basically anything, is to smear some Nutella on top.
Yeah. Unless you're allergic to nuts.
Even I would just,
Hazelnuts.
I would just
Take the shot, right?
yeah, I would just choose, or just choose that to be the manner of my death.
Bust out the EpiPen. Let's talk about tech news. You want to? Should
Yeah.
we do
Quite a
that?
few things happened in tech this week. Yesterday, while we were gone, Google had their big press conference to announce the future of Google Maps. And this announcement
Is this an iOS announcement?
no, it's not an iOS
Oh,
announcement.
what an amazing coincidence!
This press conference was announced last week, and a lot of people were speculating that it was in anticipation of WWDC and Apple announcing that they are going to have their own Maps program in iOS.
The maps
map war.
is changing. It's going to change significantly in the next couple of
Begun,
weeks.
the Maps war has.
So, just the basic history of it. Obviously, Apple has, for the longest time, used Google's Maps technology in their service on the iPhone.
Eric Schmidt went on stage with the announcement of the iPhone and talked about shared services and Google Maps.
This was pre-Android and
Pre-Android, obviously.
as Jobs put in his biography, those Google bastards fucking us over.
Yes. And Google Maps in iOS works fine right now. It's not nav.
No,
GPS and
I don't-
directions.
Well, they do have it. They just don't have the turn by
Those
turn by turn
It has
turn
to be
GPS.
turn by turn. The best $50 I've spent on phone related stuff is the turn by turn nav.
But you know
for
what? I
iPhone.
don't
And one of the,
need the-
even though I hate my Garmin GPS in my car, one of the reasons why I'm holding off getting a new one is that I'm just waiting for the iOS 6 turn by turn. I think that will
And turn by
that will do it
turn
for me.
doesn't mean you need like a fancy, third person skewed 3D perspective. It just means it needs to track you and orient the map.
and tell you, hey, you have a turn coming up in 200 meters.
yes, it just needs to be smart about the directions, so you don't need a co-pilot reading
now,
off a list.
Again, just so people understand the difference, you can kind of do that in the current Google Maps. You just have to manually thumb through the steps.
Well, you end up doing
it will
this
it will
number
track.
where you
Of
have
course,
the
it will
phone-
track your location in real time, but it won't say. It won't detect that you're coming up on a turn and say in 200 meters
You
turn
got to
left.
click the next button.
Right.
I find that trying to use the default map on iOS instead of turn by turn, especially if I'm by myself in the car, is more stressful and much more dangerous than just knowing how to go where I'm going.
If you're in
and
an
following.
unfamiliar city, yes.
Yeah.
If you're in a city you know well, then you look at the map and do a memory.
Yeah, well, yeah,
And
and,
this
you
is-
say, oh, okay, I need to go.
This,
down
of course,
blah,
has
blah,
been a big advantage that the Android phones have had over iPhone for a long time. And in fact, you see it now in some of the recent Droid commercials. They'll show the turn-by-turn feature where someone has docked the...
Oh, yeah.
They've cradled their Android phone into their car, turn left in 200 meters. Like, there's a very obvious advantage that Apple doesn't have there. That's going to change because I'm pretty certain that the new Maps service
You
that
would
Apple's
hope.
releasing will
Well,
include that.
We'll get to that
we
in a
would
bit.
hope also. I mean, we'll find out when we'll get to WWDC. And Apple did buy a maps company and mapping technology. So this is all but assured.
There's a philosophical discussion I'm not going to get into about whether advertising, hey, we have one feature that the other guy has, is actually a good idea on a device that, if it isn't holistically good, is shit.
That's marketing. I mean, that's
No, I
marketing.
know, I know, but I'm just anyway.
So a lot of people have speculated that this is a big stick in the eye for Google, because the iPhone, of course, is probably the single most popular device
definitely the
out
single
there.
most
But
popular.
it's probably the number one way in which Google Maps are used,
Yes.
and that's now going to go away.
But okay, here's the thing. It's not like Apple is completely distancing itself from Google in terms of services. YouTube will still be a part of iOS. Apple has no YouTube alternative. They're not going to partner with Vimeo and have a Vimeo
and Google
app.
is still the default search, right?
And also, Google Maps on iOS, it's not ad driven. Google's making no money.
Yeah, I wonder what the benefit is. 'Cause
Right.
They don't make any money at all.
Is it a brand recognition thing? Is it because when you launch, I mean, it's not called Google Maps. When you launch it, there is no, I think it does say maps provided by Google when you go into Street View. But
It does it when you're on the big screen too.
it's just all part of their. Yeah, you're right that it's hard to see how they monetize maps right now, but I think in terms of the long game of just getting everyone to live inside the Google footprint, like that is going to go against that.
So Google held its press conference and they announced 3 things, and I think 2 of the 3 things are unexciting, and
What
only
were
one of
those
them.
2 boring things?
I'll start with the boring things. One, Street View will now go off-road onto nature trails.
That's interesting.
Oh, so they have the Street View trucks driving around in forests?
I think
and
they
stuff?
have dudes with backpacks, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
On Street View, and they do have, it's literally dudes with backpacks,
Yeah.
like on ski trails and stuff like that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Expansion of Street View has been, I don't think it warrants a press conference. They've announced it silently
It is an amazing data project.
Oh, no.
Just say
Street View is one of the best things Google has done
it's
for its
terrific.
map service. Love Street View.
Worst things for privacy, best things for us.
And they going into buildings, doing storefronts, stuff like that. That's totally cool.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know how to get to the
Microsoft is also doing a decent job with its
Orange
Street
Julius.
View competitor for Bing. I mean, it's ubiquitous. The idea of Street View,
It's so useful.
it is, and it's a
I see, I
project
never
that
use
5
it.
years ago.
I use it all the time. I'll often look up something on a map, like in the city, and I'm not entirely sure where that is. I go to Street View, and I'm like, oh, I recognize that.
And
I know
I've
where that
done?
is now. Yeah.
I've used a Street View to find out about parking, because then I use Street View and I look at the street signs. Oh, okay, I can see that there's a lot of parking meters here, so I'm going to expect to park in a parking lot, or because the municipal website sucks.
Actually, that would be a nice idea, just an additional layer on Google Maps.
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
could
Where
toggle a
parking
parking
stuff is.
layer. Yeah.
Now you're thinking.
So the question for me about the nature trail stuff especially is this like another step toward the wallification of people?
No.
Like if you can just
no.
I hope
do the
so.
virtual street map of the nature trail, why do you need to go on the nature trail anymore?
Nope.
Well, because come
He's
on,
going to the Grand Canyon and looking at a picture of the Grand Canyon. is
Yeah, it's
the
not like
same
I don't
thing.
need to go there now.
Well, I mean, one way I don't have to leave the house. Gary should
That
be
is
on
a
board with this.
personal.
I do
that is a
appreciate that.
Personal.
For people that do actually want to go hiking, looking at a picture of a hiking trail is not going to do it for them. They're going to want to actually go. For people like me who are not going to go anyway, what difference does it make?
Then it's enriching your life.
So the other thing that's, I guess, a little more interesting is the 3D aspect of Google Maps. And this is something that's also widely expected to be in Apple's Maps announcement, some type of 3D navigation.
Bing has had this for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean exactly? 3D navigation.
So 3D popovers, they're using satellite photos and...
Oh, is this where you get kind of like the Sim City kind of look?
Yeah.
All right.
It's like Google Earth, but now Google Earth more in Google Maps.
So, yeah,
3D
so it's a
flyovers.
feature that is not new. It's Google has been building this. Like there's plugins for SketchUp that basically they give you. Or it's even I can't remember if it's an app for Google Earth or for SketchUp, but basically you open up one of these apps or the other, you get a kind of 2/3 overhead shot of a building, and you just rotate it around in 2 or 3 ways, and you draw the lines on the edge of the building, and that makes a 3D model of that.
Oh, this is so good.
The cookies are great.
They're
The
delicious.
brownies are amazing.
Thanks, Leah.
For anyone who wants to try this at home, Sara Lee Supreme Bars, cookie brownie bars. Oh,
So
good.
it's not like they know the height of the Transamerica building.
should I step away from the mic?
Don't chew into the microphone, dude.
It's not like Google has the actual data of how high each building is and dimensions. They contract out a small fleet of airplanes with cameras and use algorithms to calculate from multiple angles using photos.
Oh, so they're not using the SketchUp, the people doing SketchUp anymore. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so
You know
it's
who's
not-
going to love this is the cable news networks. You see how much they rely on Google
yeah.
Maps and Google Earth when they need to. There's been a shooting somewhere. Quick, pull it up on Google Earth because it's the only image we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
So what's the exciting part?
offline Google Maps.
Offline Google Maps.
Offline Google Maps.
Okay.
You can
On
save
desktop or on mobile?
mobile and desktop.
Well, mobile
starting
already
on
has
mobile.
that, doesn't it? On Android, you can already do offline Google Maps.
Nope.
Yeah, Because you can do nav offline. You can cache areas of the map.
Why
That came in
is
this
now
ago.
why
real
is this
caching.
exciting though? Because aren't we pretty much always connected anyway these
No,
days?
have you ever driven to Oregon?
Or Petaluma.
I've driven through Oregon.
Yeah, if you're fucked if you want data and you're on 2 of the 3 nationwide networks.
Top tips for Oregon. Number 1, if you're Californian, don't tell anybody that.
They're always really nice to us. We had a nice time in Portland.
They don't. Apparently,
just told us not
they
to
don't
bring any
take
of our
kindly
people.
to outsiders, apparently. and also don't try to pump your own gas because it's frowned upon.
Yeah, it's not frowned upon. It's against the law.
Yeah, they'll run out and stop you doing
Yeah,
it.
the guy, I got out and pumped my own gas, and the guy was like, no,
What are you doing? It's my job. Yeah.
quit taking our jobs.
So offline Google Maps, you can store offline maps based on location. So you want to say, I want a map of San Francisco. This route.
I don't understand how this is new. This is something
This
that
is-
Android has
this
done
is
for
new.
ages. Is
Nope.
this on
This is new.
PCs?
It's not on PCs yet. It'll be on Android soon. They're rolling it out on Android.
I do not understand how this is new.
This is new.
Well,
No
the
Wi-Fi
exciting part?
or cellular signal. Google
Yeah.
Maps.
this is not super exciting, is it? And it does kind of feel like that they probably wouldn't have made a big deal out of this if it weren't for they wanted to get in front of this Apple
All
thing.
3 of these announcements could have been separate blog posts, and in the past would just have been blog posts on the Google Latitude blog, Google Maps blog.
Right.
And the fact that they held a press conference to group these 3 announcements together shows that they want to get ahead of that iOS announcement at WWDC.
I wonder if there will be a desktop version of Apple's new map service as well. If they'll try to go up against Google Maps on computers,
I don't think
or just
so.
on
No, they want
phones.
people on iOS.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get onto the WWDC stuff, but I am excited to see what Apple's map implementation. I'm sure it's very shiny and polished. You know, whether or not it's as now. What are they doing about Street
I don't
View?
know.
Because
Dude,
we
you know
would
what?
have seen Apple trucks going around.
I'm
wouldn't
gonna
we?
go- I'm gonna
If
go ahead
they
and
were-
tell you.
They have to have their own version of that if they're going to compete with Google Maps.
But hold on, the Apple Map thing, the way they've been designing apps lately, could be a complete shit show. It could be that you have to unscroll the scroll of the map because it's so fucking skeuomorphic you can't stand yourself. Who knows what? It could look like a pop-up book of 3D maps. I mean, they could completely fuck this up.
When's the last time Apple completely fucked something up?
Well, look at the new calendar app on iOS.
Siri.
Siri's the last time,
Ping.
which is actually quite recent.
I would-
and Ping.
I would
you know
argue-
what? Yeah.
I would argue Ping's like 3 years old. I would argue that any of the apps that they've made that mimic paper instead of using digital interfaces are giant fuck ups and are the kind of thing that we're all going to be laughing at in 20 years.
So let's we're going to be excited to see what they. I don't think Apple.
Skeuomorphic compass.
yeah,
I don't think
first you have to untie the string that holds the map scroll shut, and then you have to spread it apart with 2 fingers to see.
I don't
natural.
think they would
Magic
be.
map.
I don't think they'd be ditching Google Maps if they weren't confident that what they had to replace it was as good or better. But we'll see.
hope so.
You're right. They're not immune to fucking up. Siri is kind of a shit show.
The people
Ping,
like paper.
Ping was a total misfire.
But you know what? iOS users aren't going to care because if it has nav, real nav,
If it has turn-by-turn
and it
nav,
saves you
then-
$50,
that's a big.
they're gonna see that first, and
Yeah.
they'll be happy
Yeah.
with that. And over time, we might get pissed off that the traffic detection wasn't as good as Google Maps.
And it's suddenly going to, you know who's going to be really excited about this is third-party cradle manufacturers. Who suddenly, because suddenly, I think the number of people who are going to want to cradle their phone in their
Well,
car is
like,
going to go way up.
that thing that we used at CES, the sticky thing on the windshield, is real good.
I gotta
20
get,
bucks.
I gotta look for something like that because I have my phone connected in the car anyway for music.
Yeah.
And you know, this is going to be the next part of that. It's going to be hopefully a better GPS than.
There's no reason why Google just can't release their own Google Maps app
Well,
for free.
duplication of functionality.
No. They can still do it.
Yeah, and there's no reason why
there's
Apple could
I
not
mean,
block that in the store.
There's the next question I have is whether they're gonna if they do traffic routing around traffic, which is I think $2 or $3 a month option on Drive Motion X or Motion X.
Yeah, usually
GPS,
live traffic is
and
is an additional
it's
feature.
like
you
a
have to
monthly
pay for.
charge. If
Yeah,
that's a free thing. That is a
a lot of
major game changer.
GPSs do come with lifetime traffic though.
Plus, if that's
Yeah,
built
but you pay
in,
an extra $100 for that.
if it's
Right.
smart because there's so many iOS users and it's you opt in to send your data and
Yeah.
you can do the real time how long it takes to get from point A to point B because of how many people are driving on that
Yeah.
freeway. That can potentially be very useful.
Given that, how are we going to pay for this is probably a question that is not asked very frequently around Apple. I would like to think that they would just do it and say, look, this is all the stuff thrown in.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Or I mean, honestly, on something like that, I'd even be okay with, hey, it's $1 a month.
No,
if
no,
you don't
no,
let us
no,
upload the
no,
data, or
no.
free if you do let us upload your data.
No.
No, I don't think you'll be
no.
seeing that option.
free.
Anyway, Do we want to talk about Justin Timberlake's new video streaming
The
service?
two Seans. Two Seans.
Oh, wait.
Oh, is this the
Oh.
airtime thing?
I thought that was Timberlake.
Two Seans.
No, it's Sean Parker and Sean Fanning, right?
Fanning
my.
and Parker.
The Napster duo.
So this is basically chat roulette for iOS, right?
This is chat roulette. Period. It's
It's
chat
for
roulette
anything, right?
grown up.
why is that? Why? Because I saw there was a very big glitzy press launch with Jimmy
That's
Fallon.
all
and
Sean Parker.
yeah, so he's calling in all his celebrity favors, but what is this really something that's going to make a dent? Who gives a shit? Chat
I
roulette.
used chat roulette for 3 days until the ratio of dicks to human beings got out of control.
Yeah, if I wanted to look at pictures of people's dicks on my phone, there are many ways I can do that already.
type
So-
dick
Yeah,
into
just type-
Google.
Yeah, just type dicks.
Here's how they've been working on this for I think a year and a half now. The way AirTime, it's called AirTime. The way it's supposed to be different from chat roulette is that it's tied to Facebook. It's tied to your social network, so there is no anonymity. You are tied to someone either who's your friend or a friend within your extended social network, and they're going to use the interests in Facebook. For example, everyone who's a fan of a certain band, right? Jefferson Airplane or something, right? If they're like two friends away from you on Facebook, then you have a higher probability of being matched up, and you can say, "I want to talk about Jefferson Airplane with someone."
Okay, so the idea is that if you go two steps out from anybody's social network, you reach like 3 million people or something, right?
And then with those shared interests, then there's a higher probability that the conversations that could come up,
So isn't this kind of like Google Hangouts?
it is a play at Google Hangouts, but
Well,
with
but it's
strangers.
more, yeah, it's
Google
like,
Hangouts, which is a fun feature when you see the Muppets doing it on TV, but in reality,
I
and
love the Muppets.
I'm one of the few people that actually is stuck with Google Plus, although even I'm kind of drifting away from it now.
Yeah.
Like you don't really use it. It's nice for some things, but like,
You know, it's for lonely people who are at home but want to.
well, yeah, so it should be perfect for me.
Are you lonely?
All the time? No, not really. I am at home all the time, though. I am often bored.
You know what you should do?
I have started Google Hangouts just because I'm bored, and I'll find myself in there with 10 random people who kind of look awkward and can't think of anything to say. And about 5 minutes later, on goes, oh, "Okay, bye."
That's exactly what this is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Except for
Omegle
with dicks.
has had pretty good success pairing random people, but that's just text based.
Yeah.
Chat roulette obviously had some fun things that spawned out of it.
Ben
outside
Folds.
Well,
The Ben Folds thing was, the
It was
guy
Merton.
that was kind of
I
like
met
Ben
him.
Folds.
I met him at a
Although
conference.
didn't Ben Folds end up using it on?
Yeah,
he
he
ended
used
up
it on
doing it on
stage,
stage.
but he
That
got-
Ben Folds guy though was great.
Merton. I met him. He's a really
He was
nice guy.
fantastic.
He wore his hoodie and glasses because he's still
And
anonymous.
Gabe and Tycho got some mileage out of it as well, where Gabe would say, "I will draw you,"
yeah.
and
Yes.
he would just draw like a monstrous penis or something.
Well, there's some fun,
offend people.
like creative things that could spawn out of this, and that's what they're hoping for: interesting discussions and people who actually are looking for, sane people looking for other sane people to have conversations with.
But sane people aren't going to use this kind of service.
That's why they rolled out to Justin Timberlake. That's why they rolled out to Jimmy Fallon.
I also heard from a couple of people that looked into it and decided not to install it because I mean,
Spyware?
It asks you for an access to an obnoxious amount of your data.
Yeah.
So like,
It really is tethered to.
And I've said before, like privacy
social
on
networks.
privacy in social networks is an illusion. Just if you're gonna go on there, just know that they're looking at everything about you.
What you want to do now is curate your Facebook page so your likes, so you're going to only find people who like weird things. So when you go on AirTime, you can only find those people.
That sounds like too much work. I'll just be alone. Forever alone.
Yeah, I'd rather just die alone than use this. I think.
Well, the other thing is that they're also monitoring. I'd rather just die alone.
The worst condemnation. I'd rather die alone than use your social
Your
network.
service is worse than dying by myself in a dark, poorly lit
There's
room,
also- they also
surrounded by only
upload
my
data.
lawyer and manager.
and monitor using algorithms to monitor the images, the video.
That doesn't work.
We
have reports-
this is a big concern because of chat roulette. They want to get rid of all the dicks.
The dick effect.
And
Nobody, there's
So
no
wait, how are they?
filter.
Did they have like dick recognition technology
That's
or
what they
something?
say. Yeah.
exactly
Seriously?
what it is.
Seriously.
They can actually say, like, "Oh, hold on, this is some guy's
Video
dick.
images
Block his
are
image."
being scanned.
Yeah.
Oh, now that is. You guys have to do a story on how they made that technology.
I think we should just test it.
Like, I mean, they presumably had like prototype model dicks that they had to use as the,
I
as the
assume
baseline,
that
right?
someone went out and sampled thousands and thousands of dicks to see.
And presumably
the-
also tits and other kinds
I
of.
don't think
genitalia.
anybody's complaining about a tit filter. This is a podcast that's not for children.
That's
by the way.
sexist.
Also, not for kids. If your kids are listening in the car, I apologize.
Do you think they had to model flaccid and erect
I-
penises?
almost
Because that's a
certainly.
different,
It's a different profile.
3D profile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Profile. Which angle?
yeah.
Right.
Could be modeling.
And I mean, think about the difference. Like you could have a really fat finger
What if your face looks like a dick?
And the thing is, it's going to take a second.
I had fish and chips that look kind of like.
I don't know if
yesterday.
they have this in America, but in England, there's always been like there's a particular kind of sexual pervert known as a flasher. Do you have flashers here?
Yeah, the guys that
Guy
go
in the raincoat
mall
and just
parking
goes-
lot and just
Like before, it's too late. You've seen everything,
yeah.
right? You've seen it all.
Reverse Patrick Stewart.
So you could flash. Presumably, I can't believe that their technology is so good that you can't at least flash someone and at least get someone to go, oh my god, that's a penis before the
You can
algorithm
report
catches
them.
up and blocks
You can
it.
report them, and because it's tied to your because you do need to tether to your
Facebook account.
accounts. If you are reported, then that's it. You're off the service.
Well, and they can
They
also
just wanna
put you
ban
on. They can also put you on a list of like they could do public shaming in the whole 9 yards.
But presumably, a lot of the reason why
people.
services like Omegle and Chatroulette are popular is people use them for video cyber sex, right? And
I would assume so.
So,
Random
but you-
sex, safe sex with random strangers.
it's all dating sites. That's all these things are.
A friend of mine who I won't name used to say that there are two reasons people use the internet. One is because they want to meet girls, and the other is because they want to meet girls.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds about right.
What about
Right.
what about girls on the internet?
they also want to meet girls. it
Oh,
turns
okay.
out. Yeah.
Pinterest? Come on.
Yeah. So the weird thing about all of this is that I don't think girls are going to use AirTime because of the dick factor.
Olivia Wilde's not going to be using airtime.
I don't know who Olivia Wilde is.
She's on House. She's in Tron.
Oh,
Was she one of the celebrities they rolled out? Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that. I think that if you use AirTime, your chances of seeing Olivia Wilde versus 1,000 dicks are 0. I bet you will see 100,000 dicks before you see one Olivia Wilde.
This is true.
Oh, I think the ratio is much worse even than that.
Well, I'm just saying if you can get.
I think you could see 100,000 dicks before you even see one actual woman, let alone Olivia Wilde.
Should we move on, gentlemen?
Yeah, let's. Although I'm going to go out on a limb and say that AirTime is going to be like a year from now. No one's going to know what's going on. What the fuck are you doing?
There's an ad on this fucking laptop magazine. I opened up a story.
I fucking hate those ads.
Sorry, mouse over ad. That's my fault.
So
We quite like laptop magazine, but just
We
not
do.
their ads.
Mouse over ads are the worst.
Yeah.
or
Where pages
pop back ads.
become like minefields that you've got to, I must go around it. I don't want to make it pop up.
Like the double underlined green links. We gotta be careful saying shit like this because we couldn't.
Oh, and those are really
Double
annoying
underlined
as
green
well, where it pulls up little mini pop-ups.
That's what I hit just then.
So E3 is this week. We will get to E3. That's a huge part of this conversation. But there's another convention going on right now in Taipei, Computex.
Oh, is
Yeah.
there? I didn't know
Beetlenut.
about that.
Have you been to Taipei?
I've never been to Taipei.
Where's
Beetlenut,
that? Taiwan, right?
Taiwan.
Yeah, I've never
Okay.
been. Computex is even bigger than CES.
And what's this for?
All
Just-
computers.
Just technology? Okay.
And-
Just computers.
Just computers.
So it's
All
like
right.
really boring
Intense.
CES.
And because because many of those OEMs are based in Asia,
Yeah.
this is where the Asuses of the world announce their new Transformer
Yes.
PCs. And,
Okay.
and this year, with Windows 8 coming out, the trend at Computex was a lot of Windows 8 tablets, new form factors. Moving away from the Android tablets, using the same hardware, but now putting Windows 8 on them.
Okay.
With RT. So ASUS announced, a bunch of Windows 8 tablets and convertibles. The Transformer is going to be a Windows 8 now machine.
Makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And
It's
I think
a Windows 8 ARM though, right?
Windows 8 ARM.
Yeah.
Yeah, RT. And it's good. Totally good. It's what we need to see. I think what's awesome, because the Android tablets we've never been particularly big fans of.
Well, it just hasn't been a good one.
There has
And which is weird because it still makes no sense to me why there shouldn't be a good one. There just isn't.
Honeycomb wasn't that great.
And by the time Ice Cream Sandwich came out,
Yeah.
the whole thing was kind of tainted.
7% of Android devices have ice cream sandwich.
That's a big improvement over 3
Less
weeks ago.
than 10%. There might be a chance that less than 10% of Android devices will get ice cream sandwich before Android or Google announces the next
Jelly
version of
bean.
Android.
They got to get on that. It's a joke.
Crazy.
That
I'm gonna go
fragmentation
ahead and
is
tell
a
you
joke.
right now. There's no that is as expected. They are excited about 7%.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
so I mean,
yeah, Computex, and I was about to say,
because here's the thing: most normal people, my mom doesn't give a shit if her
Yeah.
iPhone
Yeah.
doesn't have the latest version, as long as she can still get iMessages and FaceTime me.
I'm going to put you on the spot 2 years from now because
Yeah.
that feels like a good amount of time for stuff to
So
settle
you're
down.
saying since from now to today is basically 2 years since the dawn of Android, of real Android. If you say the Motorola Droid is the first real Android phone,
you're saying Nexus 1.
I'm saying Nexus One.
Okay, Nexus 1.
I was going somewhere different. I'm just going to ask
Droid.
you two
Droid was
years,
November,
two
Nexus 1 was
years from
January.
today, which basically is enough time for Microsoft to take a real run at this.
Yeah.
How much market share do you think Windows 8 will have in tablets?
20%.
I think that's optimistic.
I think
Although I think the fact that Android has completely fucked up the tablet effort so far does leave an opportunity for Microsoft.
here's what I'll say. I bet that they have 80% of tabloid sales that aren't iPad.
Okay, that's fair
So if
enough.
you look at whatever Apple leaves behind, Microsoft gets.
I mean, that's the thing is that iPad is so utterly dominant that you almost have to have two separate conversations. Like, well, there's the iPad, but then so who's going to get what's left over?
Well, there's still time for them to fuck that up. I still maintain that the iPad is the new air quote iPad is a step back. I mean, I know Norm really loves the screen, and it's great for reading comics and playing Ascension. But for normal use, I'd rather have something that was lighter and had better battery life.
You take your 7-inch iPad when it comes out.
I don't want a 7. I want a 10-inch that weighs a
nope,
pound.
not going to happen.
Okay, so stuff from Computex, the Transformer Windows RT.
Yeah, so all these Android tablets have come out in the past 2 years. All the OEMs, everything they've learned from making these tablets that haven't really sold, are now being that information is now being put toward making Windows 8 tablets, which I think is great.
One of the funny things about Computex is that there's a it's a kind of a the companies just assume that there's going to be a lot of industrial espionage. So sometimes they'll just make crazy products that they never expect to market or actually build just to come to show to kind of present a bunch of red herrings to the competitors. And one of them that I think is very clearly a fake product is I want to make sure I get the name. I think it's the Tai Chi.
The Asus.
The Asus. I can't get the page up. It's the Asus Tai Chi, and it's basically a laptop with a screen on both sides of the screen.
Yeah.
So
no way.
It's not a real product. It can't possibly be a real product.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you can give a presentation and you can have your screen and they can have their screen. You can control what's on.
It's a little bit hard to extrapolate, but based on the experience I had with that Windows 8 laptop last week, playing around with Metro and the tiles and the way that apps launch and stuff, I could see myself having a perfectly pleasant Windows 8 tablet experience based on the interface.
Yeah.
I think it would be good.
So we talked
for
about
the things you do on Windows 8 tablets.
Well, for the things
you do on tablets, which is usually light load, email, web browsing, social networks, some music, some
it really
media,
isn't that difficult.
Few apps.
Hey, Microsoft, don't fuck up email, which I think the email release preview looks pretty decent.
It's a little. There's some gaps, but it's nothing that's.
I think it's better on iOS.
Insurmountable.
iOS.
No. iOS is definitely more fully featured, but there are big holes in what it can do.
I cannot stand mail on iPad.
Norm, you can't change your signature.
I cannot stand that pull down tab, using portrait mode and the way messages are displayed.
Oh, I don't mind that. I like that. I actually use iOS as my main mail interface now. And Sparrow on the desktop.
Mess up email.
Because I use Sparrow on the iPhone.
Don't mess up social networking and those services, which I think they're doing an okay job with. Don't mess up browsing, which right now, I'm worried.
It's bad. We'll talk about this in a little bit in the future, but the thing Microsoft is doing really well is embracing third parties. The fact that the stuff that they announced at E3 is coming out on iOS and Android and wherever else it makes sense instead of just Microsoft platforms means that they're at least aware that because they don't have market lead, they have to be the guys that support everything. And Live has been about that for a long time.
Bolster
Live,
their the Xbox platform.
Yeah, well, but like even the stuff that Live does, like pulling your Flickr and Facebook and Twitter and all the different social networks except for Instagram into one kind of login, so that all that stuff is connected to your Live account, is actually incredibly useful.
SkyDrive,
same thing, all that kind of stuff. Let's anything else from Computex?
We weren't there. I mean,
there's only two of us.
New hardware form factors. We'll be excited.
The other thing that we maybe didn't talk about last week, but since we're talking about computers real quick and Google and what have you, is I think it was interesting to see Google kind of pushing a little bit harder on the whole Chromebox thing. That Chromebox is new. They have a new Chromebook. I don't know if that's ever going to make a dent, but they're definitely, with Samsung really making a go at it.
I still think that there's a space for super cheap PCs, notebook form factor, something that doesn't necessarily run ARM, and that you get that is primarily a web browser, a computer that's just a web browser.
The Chromebox is a little. It's cool. I mean, it's nice to see this teeny tiny little box.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to sitting at home with a desktop, do you really want something that's that minimal? I mean, you can have a real computer.
Yeah, but think about. I think that's a business play. So if you're a business, if you're CBS and all of your corporate stuff is on Google Apps, you put that at the receptionist desk, and
Or
it's disposable.
Salesforce.
Yeah, or Salesforce, or it's someplace where they're not buying. Like Salesforce isn't buying fully fledged PCs for the majority of their employees. They're giving them iPads and super lightweight stuff. So in that kind of context, a Chromebox is a dream for IT. Or if you're a mid-sized company, you're just doing a lot of word processing and data and stuff like that. Chromebox is fine.
It's also kind of good in such a way that you're kind of limiting what your employees can be doing, right? It's not like they're going to be playing Diablo 3 instead of working on their Chromebox.
If you give them the web, they can play Bastion. Well, not very well, but theoretically
they can play a lot of browser games.
Yeah.
You don't know Jack on Facebook.
Yes.
The first Facebook game that I've actually gotten into and played because you don't know Jack, and it's great.
Multiplayer is good.
Well, there's no screws.
Well, it's asynchronous, but it's still good.
I'm out since there's no. If you can't screw people, I'm not interested.
You can't screw people, which is a big loss.
There are girls on Facebook.
Interesting.
Not many, but at least not on mine.
More than well.
What part of Facebook are you on?
I'm not in it. Yeah, I'm not in any way.
You're in the. I don't want to know what parts of Facebook you're on, Gary. I would just say when you see crazy stuff come out of Computex, be aware that probably the companies that are releasing the ridiculous stuff are fucking with their competitors. It's just part of Computex. It's like an icing thing. Like the case manufacturers used to build these incredibly elaborate fake cases that would be impossible to manufacture at scale, just to fuck with their competitors. And then they started selling them for $800.
That was what I love about, remember last year at PAX, I actually love that section where they just had the really, really high-end rig builders with those fancy Lust, water-cooled, mega steampunk-type rigs. Like, I had some serious
You're going to be in the market.
What's that?
End of this year. It's going to be perfect time for you.
I'm going to be in the market later this year.
You have like a good Ivy Bridge processor.
After Windows 8, after Windows 8 comes out, I want one of those mega water-cooled things.
Get commission something.
You'll need it for Diablo, SimCity, and
SimCity I'm excited about.
And the next Star Wars game, which we'll talk about.
Oh, 1313? Yeah.
The Virgin Mobile has another prepaid plan coming. It's $30. Is that data and voice?
I think it's data and voice.
That's crazy.
The second service now that will sell you an iPhone at a pretty high price, but then you can have a prepaid phone plan, which is...
I'm tempted to switch. The only problem with those is it's hard to roam, right? Yeah. Like if you go to New York or something, you could potentially get screwed on roaming.
You don't get the peripheral benefits of a major network.
The value of you don't get to...
I'd like to see more of that. I'd really like to see the 2-year contract getting kind of eaten away at more and more. Because it is bogus.
It'll be interesting.
Really, a year is long enough. Like when they upped it to 2 years, that really was kind of a slap in the face.
All the Canadians right now,
Canadians with 3 and 4 year contracts are cursing.
Oh, Canadians have even longer.
Yeah.
Oh man, but they get free healthcare though.
That's true, but no Netflix really, no Amazon Instant. Yeah,
if you
no Prime.
If you said to me right now, you can have the Canadian healthcare, but you also have to take Canadian cell phone plans, I'd fucking take that deal because that's a net gain overall. Don't you think?
You have a pregnant special lady friend.
Well, just in general.
I suppose. I don't know. I'm healthy.
Today.
I want new phones. New
phones every week.
New phones. I don't care about new liver.
that's like saying I don't need car insurance. I'm not planning to get into a car accident today.
We had a great car insurance conversation.
Really?
In LA, because we were driving in LA, and LA is kind of crazy. We're talking about viral YouTube videos.
Oh my god!
And we're talking about like crazy accident videos that people are putting online now on YouTube.
So tell the backstory, because the backstory is interesting.
So in Russia,
and I think Saudi Arabia or Dubai,
in some countries, insurance companies are now offering lower rates, affordable rates, if as a precaution you mount a camera in your car, so they can detect how accidents happen.
The problem is there's a lot of fraud in like Russia and hit and runs and stuff. So they mount the dash cam just like the cops have here.
So you put cameras on the car, so pointing at outside, looking at cars around you.
Yeah.
And if you do that and record everything, it's like a black box for your car.
Yeah.
Then your insurance rate goes down.
I think the cameras actually have like accelerometers in them. So when you have an impact,
I don't see a problem with this. It's interesting. Even in the US, there's been some discussion about putting black boxes in cars, and there's a privacy issue, and people go, "Oh, privacy." But actually, it's a good idea. It's nice if you're in an accident and you're not at fault. Then it's nice to know I wasn't going over the speed limit. This happened, that happened. Like you can actually, there's just more evidence of what actually happened in an accident.
But as a byproduct of this.
Cars already have some of that stuff. Like the airbag, any car with an airbag has a black box that tells you under what conditions the airbag deploys, right? How many G's was the deceleration? What direction was it from? All that kind of stuff.
So as a byproduct of having these cameras in cars for car insurance purposes, the video from these accidents are making its way onto YouTube and websites as viral videos of crazy car accidents from a first person perspective.
Oh, crap.
Because the video's there, and these videos are getting millions and millions of views. So my genius scheme now is the Norm
Fred Flintstone, not Sergey Brin.
Chan Insurance Company, free car insurance. I will front your car insurance as long as you put 2 GoPros in your car, one looking at you, one looking outside. And if you get into an accident, I'll pay for the deductible, pay for everything, but I own the rights to that footage, the viral video footage.
By the way, this is
earn that CPM.
This is a perfect opportunity to start talking about bait car, but we may want to leave that for outtakes.
I don't know if we should talk about bait car.
But hey, it's technology.
I don't think we should talk about bait car. I don't think we can have a reasoned, sensitive discussion about bait car.
Why?
We should. I don't think we can talk about why we can't talk about bait car without getting into trouble. Let's talk about IE10.
Okay.
Wow, you
That was the worst segue ever, wasn't it?
I mean, are we done with E3? Because there was
We haven't
haven't even gotten to E3.
Oh shit.
We're
We're
Okay.
still
saving
in
it for
tech.
the end. We're building.
yeah.
Man, this is like there's so much. I'm not used to the podcast having this much actual content.
We're only
It's usually just shit filler.
We're
Like
only-
we've actually got real
Thanks.
things to talk about.
Thanks. Don't tell them that, or they will understand. And just I listened to the whole tested podcast in like 25 minutes this week. IE10's flash whitelist.
So when we got we talked about this in the Windows 8 release preview video.
Yep.
IE10 on Windows 8. There's 2 versions of IE10. One is a Metro design only app in the Metro interface, start screen interface,
Yep.
Metro style, and then one is a IE10 on desktop.
Yep.
They are 2 separate programs.
Never the twain shall meet.
But they do not connect.
No,
They don't communicate really.
not really.
But when you're using Windows 8 and you go to a website, they send the same profile. So Windows websites think that you're using a desktop browser when you're in IE.
Not always.
IE10 for Metro.
Sometimes IE10 for Metro, like for whatever reason, some sites I was going to,
Was
you would
mobile?
get the mobile site on Windows desktop running IE10
This is the
in
problem.
Metro.
They're sending the same profile for both IE10s.
It's real dumb.
And there's Flash in IE10.
Oh, so when you say setting the same profile, you mean the browser tells the site,
yes.
"Hey, I'm
Using
IE10."
Just
Yeah.
IE10. And Microsoft has a whitelist for Flash sites that they're going to enable for IE10 because there's Flash built into the browser now.
Yeah.
But there's no easy way to transfer, to HTML5 when you're on a site that's not on their whitelist yet. So people in
Oh.
testing release preview
So
are having
say
problems
you're on the YouTube
browsing.
HTML5 preview. Not that YouTube doesn't work, just as an example.
Right.
Then you can't switch back and forth.
Nope.
Oh, that's lame.
Nope.
That's something. I mean, that part of that's because the OS is early, and
Yeah.
people who run those kinds of sites have to update it. This is the challenge.
the bigger
consumer
problem,
preview.
the bigger challenge, the fact that they have to actually address these things because there are 2 versions of IE10,
Yeah.
and they're not communicating. They don't really function as one unit.
Mm-hmm.
That is a problem with Windows 8.
Oh, yeah, and it's interesting because we'll talk about this too. But they rolled out IE for Xbox. They showed IE for Xbox at E3, and it looks exactly like IE. It looks like the HTML5 implementation of IE10 that's in Metro on.
And also
Windows 8.
on Windows for desktop, you will be able to use Firefox, Chrome, whatever you want. But on Metro, in Start Screen, a Metro style app, those web browsers won't have the same rights as IE10.
I'm going to be. Well, no. The thing that's good is if you're in a Metro app and Chrome is your default browser for the system, if you set it up right,
Well,
it launches desktop Chrome.
Well, you can't do that on RT.
Obviously not on RT. I'm going to be really interested to see if Google and Firefox release HTML or
They want to,
Metro
they want
versions
to,
of
but
the-
they're
of the app.
unhappy with what APIs are available.
It's not particularly capable. Microsoft, I guarantee you that Microsoft isn't going to do using hidden APIs for that IE10 implementation because that's how they got in trouble.
Oh, of course.
the
And
last
I mean,
go-around.
it's nothing that Apple's not doing either. Same with iOS. Like web browsers, third-party web browsers on iOS, as good as they are, do not have the same rights as Safari.
Well, no. The difference is you can't on iOS. You can't set a different mail or browser app to be the default handler for mail and browser links. On Windows, you can do that. I mean, you can say, "Hey, this app is my mail app, not this app." At least on the x86 version that we have installed now. I don't know how RT is going to work at all. I would assume that probably is less possible with that. Do we want to talk about Instapaper?
Yeah, there were a couple Instapaper updates. I love Instapaper.
Is this a real official Marco Arment Android Instapaper?
Marco Arment, who wonderful developer, he was the CTO of Tumblr and left to focus full time on Instapaper.
Well, he started Instapaper was a side project.
Side
for him.
and it got big enough, and he's making enough money off it. It's one of those apps that we love and we're
I
totally
use
happy
daily.
paying for. And every time there's an update, we know there's thought put into update, and we love reading his blog posts, his insights as a
You're saying you would
developer.
like to marry Marco
I
Arment, is
love
what I'm
Marco
hearing.
Arment. He's
Okay.
awesome.
He's your man crush.
He has been very vocal about his distaste for Android, and he doesn't think you can make money off Android apps, and he doesn't want to put the same type of brain power in developing an Android version of Instapaper. But with Kindle Fire and tablets, he felt they had no choice.
And ice cream sandwich.
He contract development for Instapaper for Android to a third party developer, a developer he'd worked with for Tumblr mobile app, and it's released, so you can get Instapaper on Android. It's not 100% fully featured yet.
Okay.
What
is
it
it
totally
missing?
works.
Search
It's
and
missing pagination. It's missing full page reading.
So do we need to explain what Instapaper is? An app that lets you.
It's a bookmarking
basically.
system.
Well, bookmarking and caching.
Yeah.
So like if you get on the train in the morning, go to work, and you don't have internet access while you're on your tablet on the train or on your phone on the train, Instapaper will cache your whatever articles you wanted to grab from the web. So you can read them offline
And present
on
them
an
in a
airplane or a train or
very,
whatever.
very easy to
Plain
read,
text, basically.
plain text format. A lot of competitors out there. Apple's own reading list in Safari. Readability is very popular.
Yes.
So that's
It's not
free.
readability anymore. It's
It's readability.
Oh no, the other one, the old one. It's Pocket.
Oh, did they change?
Yeah, they changed the name a
Okay.
few months ago.
So Instapaper on Android's out, and also Instapaper for iOS had a new update where you get this. It's smart location-based updates. So when you leave your house,
Pocket used to be read it later.
read it later. So there's read it later, readability, and reading lists.
Right. Reading list doesn't cache.
Doesn't cache, and that's just in Safari.
Right.
When you leave your house with Instapaper, it'll know that you are on your commute, getting on your train, and they'll automatically update your reading.
And I
articles.
think that's the first non-Apple app that uses location gates that I've used.
very smart.
Yeah, it's quite nice. So that's out. It's worth updating if you have Instapaper. On the other hand, Instagram's latest update is kind of shit. So I would recommend not upgrading to that.
Instagram.
Instacast, the podcast app that we like. The 2.0 version of that, or whatever the most recent one is not particularly good, and I had to revert from a desktop backup. So I would recommend not updating until they kind of fix that. It's they took away some stuff that people really liked, and it's just not as fully featured, not as good as the previous version. Venus Transit. Did either of you guys get to watch that? We were at a meeting, so we didn't get to see the Venus Transit.
No, Gary, did you watch the Venus Transit?
I did. It was amazing.
Did you go outside?
Yeah,
Once in a
so
lifetime
I was
experience.
actually at Telltale Games, and a bunch of the guys there were outside with a telephoto lens and these weird, what looked like 3D glasses. And
Eclipse glasses.
Yeah, they were eclipse glasses, and they're so super dark. Like, I mean, if you're walking, or if you just look at you just walk around with them on, they're completely blackout glasses. Because I mean, that's the level of filtration you need to be able to look at the sun. And I looked up, and it was miraculous. You could see the sun in perfect. It's so rare that you actually see the sun as just a circular object because it's so bright. You can't see the definition.
Blows
of it.
out your retinas.
So it was amazing to see that, and then to see the tiny little dot of Venus right there, like a little beauty spot. It was amazing.
Anybody sing that song?
No.
Okay, that's probably good then.
But it was great. It was great to see. I'm glad that I saw it. It was.
Well,
And it was one of those moments where you get like just the tiniest glimpse of what's out there in the universe.
Your
Like
scale.
this planet that's just a teeny tiny
how
dot.
about when you look at the moon?
Well, I
Does
mean,
that blow your mind every time you look at the moon?
it still does occasionally when I always find that more impressive when you can see the moon during the day, or when it seems extra large as it has done recently.
yeah.
But we're so used to it that you almost
take
become
the moon
kind of
for
immune to
granted
it.
is what you're saying.
But I had never seen this before. I'd never seen the sun
Never see it
and
again either.
one of its other planets like that. It was amazing to see.
Did you go? You saw the eclipse a few weeks ago, right? On May 20th.
Didn't really where we were. We couldn't get a good look at it. But this actually was more impressive to me than the eclipse.
So, do you know the why the Venusian transit is of significance? Yeah, thank you, Norm. I lost words for a minute there.
Because it's very rare.
No, it's actually one of the first ways that early scientists were able to calculate the distance from the Earth to the sun.
Oh.
So what they did is in, I think, 1761 or something like that, Edmund Hubble and Johann Kepler and a bunch of other early scientists, physicists, dudes from the Royal Academy. The place in England.
Okay.
Basically went to all parts of the world, all different latitudes, with because they were able to predict it because of one in 1716, I think. and they went to all different parts of the world and with very accurate clocks and measured the time it took Venus to transit. And with that information from different latitudes, they were able to tell what the angle difference was between their perspective of Venus and our perspective of Venus, and use that to calculate an astronomical unit.
That blows my mind.
Yes.
And the mental leap it takes to be able to comprehend that.
Here's the really mind-boggling thing. Scientists from all around the world, or at least Western Europe, at that point, Western Europe was where scientists and the Middle East, but they weren't talking to each other. England and Great Britain and France were at war, like hardcore, blowing shit up for like 30 years or something. The scientists put aside their differences and worked together for the good of all mankind, so that they could know how. Because up until that point, they had no idea how far apart we were from Venus, how far apart we were from the sun, how far away Jupiter was. They just knew that it was small, and they had a pretty good idea.
Amazing.
That it was further away or closer. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about before we get into
Ray Bradbury?
No. We'll talk about Ray Bradbury at the end.
Okay.
Scroll down.
VGA ports on skinny laptops?
Don't want to talk about that. Last thing before E3
No, I'm not
news.
talking about the Catcopter.
Catcopter.
Oh, let's not.
It was so sad and funny. Hilarious.
It was very
sad.
polarizing. Everyone thought it was either really cool or just were really put off by it.
Well,
It's not cool at all.
I both hated myself for laughing and couldn't stop laughing, like simultaneously. It was quite it was unusual because the cat was like in full lol cat. Paint the word picture, Norm, since you brought this up.
Someone's cat died.
Yeah,
And-
an artist of some kind.
Yes, and
Fucking art.
as some people do when their beloved pets pass, they preserve the animal, the memory of the animal.
It's okay, Chloe. We won't stuff you.
Using the art of taxidermy, stuffing that animal with preservatives and stuffing, literally, and glass eyes and all sorts of nonsense. It is horrifying. I think taxidermy is terrifying.
Yeah, I agree. I think
uncomfortable.
taxidermy just in general is very unpleasant.
Didn't
and
you
just
rub Luchadeer's
weird.
nose?
Oh yeah.
I used to walk up
I am
behind you and
very
rub it on the back of your neck.
uncomfortable with the idea of taxidermy, of living things being preserved that way.
Have you ever seen Will Rogers' horse?
No.
It's very creepy.
But this was no ordinary taxidermy project. Being the artist as this guy was, he turned his cat into a skin for his quadricopter.
It was really,
all limbs out. Four limbs out.
The four arms and legs of the cat became the beams
flayed out.
That the propellers came. It was fucking horrifying. But the look on the cat's face.
Oh
was,
my goodness!
And I don't even really. Like
I don't know
cats
what's
that
more
much.
scary than walking down the street and seeing a dead cat flying at you in full quadricopter form. That is
I didn't know.
terrifying.
When I first saw it, I honestly thought it was some kind of weird fake or something.
It could be. I mean, it very well could be.
But this is a perfect example of how what you think is cool, what the idea of like what's internet cool and what's actually cool is often so different. Like on the face of it, guy takes his dead cat and turns it into a helicopter.
Yeah.
In theory, goes, that sounds awesome. You see in reality, it's actually horrific.
No, it does not sound awesome.
But it is kind of an ultimate mashup of like Rufflecopter and lolcats. Like it seems kind of perfect. But no, it was horrendous.
Yeah, but funny.
It is one step above those people who taxidermy squirrels and dress them up in dioramas or rats.
You mean Michael Scott?
Michael Scott does that?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, no, in that movie, the bad movie. Schmucks for dinner or whatever.
Well, many
Schmucks.
leaps there with Steve Carell, Michael Scott, and a character he played in another movie.
You knew where I was going. We went to LA and we saw E3. Are you okay?
Oh my god!
Why did
a
you
whole
bring up
new
the
rich
picture?
vein of no, I don't want to see it. I've seen it enough.
Really terrifying. Hey, so Microsoft announced some stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about the E3 experience because we, Will and I and Gary, we all have very different E3 experiences than, a video game website, and Giant Bomb. We didn't see the press conferences because we were traveling.
Yeah.
And we only were on the show floor for a day.
Yeah.
And Gary, you watched all the press conferences, which is how you.
I actually didn't get to
now.
watch all of them live. I didn't get to see all of them, but it is for me the preferred way to experience E3 now. In my capacity as a games journalist for many years, I think I went to about the first 10 E3s, maybe more. And so I'm pretty familiar with the E3 experience. It hasn't changed much.
Yeah,
there was a period there where it got smaller for a bit, and then it got much bigger again.
Got smaller, went to Santa Monica, and then kind of
but now
the
it's
weird
now it's as
LA
back and as
thing
bombastic as ever. And the
Actually,
reality is,
okay.
there's a lot. It's great. It's fun to be able to see all your friends from the industry and see all the latest games. And there is a sense of excitement. Like, this is what the industry's all about. Like, we're seeing it all happen here live. It's great. But the reality is, achy feet, long lines, shitty food, and just general kind
Everything
of
is
fatigue.
true.
And like, you're so ready to get out of there.
And
Like,
unless you're willing to wait in lines or have private meetings to see behind closed door demos, everything
Right.
you watch online now, because of how easy it is to stream live video, archive high definition footage,
you're actually getting a better experience than many of the people in the audience.
you get a much better sense of the
that's true.
overview of all the games.
I mean, people were tweeting their pictures of like where they're getting ready for the Xbox conference, and they tweeted like from where their seat was, and they were like up in the nosebleeds, and I'm like, I'd rather watch it from here.
Yeah.
Where did they do the Staples, or are they elsewhere now? Like,
Each one's at a different place.
Yeah. So I mean, because it's all live stream, it's no longer this press event. It's just a big consumer event.
But the big overall picture that I wasn't there, but you can get a pretty good sense these days. That's the whole point, is that this felt very much like an end of generation conference. Like, there wasn't a lot of excitement. We kind of felt like, next year's going to be the big one. There was, I think pretty much
Wii U
everybody, with the bizarre exception of Ubisoft, seemed to underwhelm pretty much. I am an outlier in that I actually am I was a little bit excited about Nintendo. I'm more excited about Wii U than I was, whereas a lot of people seem to have the opposite effect. But Microsoft, was there one thing out of Microsoft that we were excited about this year?
So, as somebody who hasn't watched any of the conferences yet, and probably actually won't at this point, I'll probably go through and cherry pick out the stuff I want to see, knowing what everybody said was interesting.
Yeah.
Going to the floor cold without knowing what people were excited about is very, very informative. 'Cause
Okay.
you get a completely different impression. Like I went in and I watched a couple of the clip reels, and we saw like people playing Borderlands. We saw the Colonial Marine stuff.
Yeah.
Right, you walk into that in terms of the showcasing of the booths and stuff. You walk into one of the halls and you see this massive Borderlands booth, and you think, oh man, Borderlands is the hot thing from 2K. But then you really have to go around to the back and see XCOM.
Yeah. So I mean, I think.
Well, and that's the beauty of E3, is oftentimes the real gems are kind of waiting to be found off in the dark corners of
If you
E3.
have the time, the patience to go.
Didn't see a lot of Kentia this year. Usually
There's no
that's
Kentra. It's gone. It's been gone for
not there this year.
It's been gone since they came back from Santa Monica.
Oh, that was the best part.
Yeah, it's a parking lot again. They talked about this in the Bombcast. You should
That's a
listen to
shame.
the Bombcast. They had E3 mysteries.
So let's talk about the big.
Well,
Do you want to just go through him real quick?
I just want to
bash him
say
out?
the feeling that I saw from people I follow on Twitter and friends and all that coming out of the press conferences was kind of different than the feeling I got walking around the floor, because the show is less packed than it has been in the past. They're letting fewer people in. Like, they're being much tighter on credentials for journalists and stuff like that. So
Good.
Which is fantastic. I'm all for that. You could walk around the show and there weren't any jammed up points or anything like that. It was really nice. I didn't feel like there were any worse. Like, there were fewer good looking games walking around the floor. I feel like there was probably some stuff that people were disappointed in. I feel like it's weird that Halo 4 and we're seeing fourth Gears of War and some of that kind of stuff. But I don't think that this was a particularly bad year for E3. I think it's just maybe a kinder, quieter,
I think it was
gentler conference.
I don't think there's very, very few really standout games. Obviously, Nintendo's the only company already with kind of 1 foot in the next generation. Everyone else were kind of waiting for the next big shoe to drop. It does disappoint. One thing that I did notice about watching it on how the internet experience is different, and I find it quite annoying, I guess, disappointing, whatever you want to call it, is that I generally don't like the snarky, cynical, negative nature of the internet.
Yeah.
And that kind of peanut gallery aspect of all that snark and cynicism. It's the easiest thing in the world to do is sit back and just like throw peanuts
Shit
at
on
people.
stuff, yeah.
But that's basically what the internet becomes. It's a highly focused peanut gallery. We're on the forums and on Twitter, and
not even just the internet, it's people who are there.
And I'm sorry to say, I get sucked into it as well, because it is kind of a mob mentality. But like, it's just constantly people going instant judgments. Oh, this looks shit. Oh, this is boring. Oh, this is terrible. It's like, really, at least give it a chance. But if anything, E3 played into that, because there wasn't a lot of tremendously exciting stuff.
Well, and I kind of wonder how long they'll continue doing the whole giant press conference thing. I mean, I know they put those out on TV. They're on TV now, which is really weird to me.
Yeah, they're on Spike
And game trailers and all sorts of places.
Yeah.
I don't know who's served. Like, it used to be that those press conferences were partly for investors and partly for press, and now they're on TV, so they're not necessarily for investors anymore. They're for people who actually go out and buy games.
I would rather they make those announcements and show those trailers off during those press conferences than during a Spike TV VGA Awards.
Oh, and absolutely agreed. But I just like the other thing is, I mean, even on games like the Sony, I'm going to call it Sony Smash Brothers because I can't remember what it's called, Sony All Stars, I think. Like
Right.
that game. All of the surprises of that game were out well before the press conference. Everybody knew everything they felt like they knew what they needed to know about it beforehand, and it ends up just being really weird and kind of boring to sit through.
That's not Sony's fault.
I thought
whoever leaked,
I thought
it's their
Sony had one of the better conferences. They at least had more games that I'm excited about. I'm excited about this new David Cage game Beyond. I'm really excited about The Last of Us. Looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I personally am not interested in Wonderbook, but I think it's great that Sony is trying something like that. It's a new original thing. I thought they generally had a good showing.
The company that released the PS3 as the living room computer focused least on the PS3 as a living room computer HTPC.
Well, Nintendo, I think, focused the least, but
And Microsoft went full on the other way because I think they are currently winning the battle of this is. If you said to me right now, I just want one box in my living room, what should I get? I'd say get a 360.
so let's talk about Microsoft.
Yeah.
The big announcement from them, obviously Halo 4 is coming. There's a new Gears of War coming. I don't.
A lot of sequels, a lot of iterations.
Some of our arcade games were announced that those look okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about Tony Hawk. I'm excited about that the Dark Light, the side scrolling thing. That looked
I
interesting.
remember back at a time when Microsoft would at least devote 10 minutes of its big conference to talk about PC games.
Those days are gone.
The Santa Monica one.
Which is funny because,
The Santa Monica press conference, I remember the moment that I died because I was at PC Gamer at the time, sitting there next to the PC Gamer staff at the Microsoft press conference. And the big announcement for games for Windows was Viva Pinata for PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bet. That was dark time for PC
I think
gaming.
Microsoft has given up on PC. I mean, they had that Games for Windows initiative. They fucked it up, and I think they're just like,
Hey, we have-
other companies, third parties take care of that.
We have
now.
easy controller support in widescreen now, so Games for Windows was a success from that standpoint.
I guess.
So the thing about Microsoft,
They were more heavily focused on non-game applications than anyone else.
and you know what's funny about
And
that?
that's not illegitimate. I mean, that's what these machines are becoming. So I think that's legitimate. But when you go to E3, I think there's an understanding or an expectation that you're going to see games.
Right? Why not CES?
So
CES.
what's funny is at CES they don't talk about games either. They don't talk about games at all at conferences with the Xbox, except for maybe.
Well, hey, I
GDC.
mean, technically it is Electronic Entertainment Expo, and that really does cover,
boy.
that would cover non-game things as well.
So we're rolling back into CES. CES spawned E3. Now E3 is going to spawn back into CES.
You cannot argue the trend that games are becoming more. Game boxes are not just game boxes anymore. In the same way that phones aren't just phones anymore, they're multifunction
that's true.
devices. So is that, with the exception of Nintendo, and even Nintendo is going to be going in that direction now with the Wii U. Even though they didn't talk about it, clearly Netflix, Amazon Video, all that stuff's going to be there. All the game boxes now.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing Wii U forward into that. This is what they do now. They play games
Of
and they
course.
also do tons of
It's
other
a smart
things.
box.
As
And
well.
This is
Microsoft
the
has
living
done the best job in supporting content
kind
partners and building. I mean, the Netflix, the MLB TV, the ESPN relationships. That content is.
But with the exception of Netflix and MLB, none of those experiences are particularly good. The HBO Go app is not a good app. I mean, it's
Good enough. If all you want to do is dial up content and watch it, I mean,
dude, it is so fucking
the
frustrating.
interface could be better.
Which is why interface
and it loses shit. You go through and save a whole bunch of content, and it just eats it after a while.
Oh, and by the way,
that's just shit just doesn't work.
I'm getting sick of my fucking Kinect as well. I'm going to unplug the fucking thing. Because I was watching HBO Go to catch up on an episode of Veep that I had missed, and I got a bottle of Snapple, and I'm shaking it, and the fucking Kinect starts giving me grief.
Oh, see, I find I use the Kinect more when I'm watching HBO Go because it's easier to say Xbox pause than it is to get the fucking interface to
I
work.
think Microsoft is realizing now that it's actually better simply as a voice recognition device
It's
than
very
as a
good as
movement
voice.
recognition device. I've had it with Kinect as a movement device.
So Forbes-
it's not reliable. This is bullshit. Nobody wants to do this.
Like wave your hand in front of the
Yeah,
screen.
it's
and hold
annoying.
there.
It's inaccurate. It
This
takes
is
too
not
long.
the interface you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want the Jedi powers over my Xbox.
The
do
Jedi
not
powers
work.
work if it actually worked as it intended.
But it doesn't
Imagine
work.
it
It's
doesn't.
fucking annoying. It's hypersensitive.
Okay.
I'm trying to watch a video, and every single time I pick up my drink, you get this in the corner, and it's
waving hand,
distracting.
So what you're saying is the interfaces to control TV and video content on your Xbox are not good. The remote control is not real good because typing in text is a pain in the ass.
And also, you
remote
forget which
control.
button does what. Like, I
Well,
still
for
don't know
me,
what's
the
pause
little- the
on
Xbox-
the 4 buttons. Is it B or is it X? And
I use
sometimes you back it out.
Or if you're using a universal remote, that's hard to search with because it's hard
Yeah.
to use a keyboard with a
Exactly.
universal remote.
Yeah.
So
So Forbes had this story about Microsoft dominating the living room now. Interviewed Ballmer, and
I gave you a perfect segue.
I will talk about Smart Glass.
I fucking softballed that over to you. All you had to say was, so they introduced Smart Glass.
I will talk about this. And so Microsoft really wants to own the living room in fear that Apple will come in late this year and beginning of next year with their TV.
Apple is in the living room right now. The thing that nobody gets is that AirPlay is the winner, and nobody's realized it because most people don't understand what it does.
Oh, especially executives. So Microsoft announced Smart Glass, this initiative, which is their AirPlay.
It's really a dumb name. Can we say? I think it's anything smart something.
Yeah.
I just think, wow, that is a really dumb name.
It's actually a good rule of thumb, I think, to say that if it says smart
Yeah,
in the name, that's the one thing you can pretty much guarantee it is not.
right.
or if it says extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what it means is that whoever named it is kind of lazy, but whatever. Okay, so
they're
dumb name
calling
aside.
it Smart Glass, and this is the new way to control your Xbox with a device that's not a controller or the Kinect,
Such as what?
such as a tablet or phone. Any
And they
tablet or
did,
phone.
okay, good, because they did say you can use it with iPhone and
iOS,
Android, right?
They're
Because
gonna
sticking to your guns and saying, well, you need a Windows phone, they're just going to fuck themselves doing
see
that.
if you're Apple and you have half of the market, you can do that. If you're Microsoft and have none of the market,
you
can't
have
really.
you have to play with
Yeah.
the other guys.
So
yeah.
it's not an AirPlay competitor. It's not AirPlay in that you get screen sharing, or that if you're in a web browser and you're playing a video, you can just push that video to the TV. It's not that.
It's very.
But
it's
why
very-
isn't it that? Because that's the one feature
That's
we really
the one
like.
I want. Exactly. Because
Well,
it's
you
not
can- but
native.
I was doing it last night. I wanted to show Leah the new trailer for Django Unchained that came
Yeah.
out. Dialed it up on my iPad.
Yes.
Boom. AirPlay. It's up on the big
Microsoft
screen in
doesn't
1080.
Get
No.
that yet.
You can do that from Windows tablets and Windows phones.
You cannot.
Yeah, you can.
Nope.
Yes, you can. You can do it from a Windows 8 machine to an Xbox. It doesn't work with this update with the version of Windows 8 we have. You can play to the Xbox. It works.
Play
I've-
video, play screen
Yes.
sharing.
From a Windows 8 machine. You can't screen share, but you can play video and you can play content. You
It's
can play
not.
music.
It's not native.
Norm, God damn it, it is native. He demoed it in that when we were with him in that meeting the other day.
Yep. Running within the Smart Glass application.
No, what I'm saying is that is not part of Smart Glass. That is a thing you can do from a Windows 8
Oh no,
machine
I'm talking
to an
specifically
Xbox.
about Smart Glass. So okay,
Yes.
talk about the experience.
So
So,
what-
you have a Windows 8 tablet in your hand right now. Okay, you're in Internet Explorer. You play YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And you want to send YouTube to Xbox. How does that happen?
You hit play to Xbox from the share thing.
and then what happens on the Xbox?
I have no idea. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, that's not
Well,
happening.
presumably the Xbox would play it.
Right. My assumption is that the Xbox just
Xbox
plays.
then launches YouTube application. The YouTube
Did you
app
try it?
launches a YouTube app, and then you have to
Oh,
go
so it
press
just sends like
play.
a cookie to the Xbox. It's not actually streaming the video. Okay.
Nope. It launches
Well,
applications.
I'm actually
Launches-
the streaming, the Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi back and forth is kind of the dumb part of AirPlay.
No, no. Apple does cookie also, but it's hidden, so it looks like it's streaming. So-
I'm gonna okay. Keep talking.
So with AirPlay, when I'm on the iPad and I'm playing YouTube and I'm sending it over, it's fast enough that it feels like real time when I'm scrubbing, but it's not downloading to the iPad and then sending the video from the iPad to the Apple TV. It's playing the video from Apple TV on YouTube because Apple TV can play YouTube and can play video.
Well, I mean, I guess that's a more efficient way to do it than
Yeah, it
actually
is.
streaming the content. If I'm just sending a thing saying I want to watch this, and Apple TV says, "Well, I can fetch that for you," and I'm just all I care about is the end result.
Yeah, exactly. But screen sharing does actually push. Like when you
Okay.
do screen sharing, it pushes.
Yeah, because sometimes
from-
obviously
wanna see
in
it,
that
yeah.
case you are pushing
With the
what's on your
Xbox
screen.
implementation, it is launching an application, and with Smart Glass, it's launching like HBO Go within Smart Glass application.
So how's this going to work once they bring iPhone and Android into the the mix?
Whether you're on a Windows phone or a Windows 8 tablet or the iPad, you have to launch a separate application called Smart Glass. It becomes a full screen application. And within Smart Glass, you have the option then to launch HBO Go, control all of the Xbox content, music, HBO Go, movies, Paramount, whatever.
Okay.
And not only do you control it, so Will has that problem, if HBO Go right now on the controller is kind of slow, right? Like you have the browsing, finding your episode of Veep. If you don't have that bookmark, it's not a great interface,
Right.
with the Xbox Dash.
Yeah.
But if it's on a tablet and you can just browse through and flip through a list of episodes
Right.
with your finger,
Right.
much easier.
But
right?
this is all from within one app.
Within the Smart Glass app.
Okay.
You can throw up an episode of Game of Thrones. You can do that from Smart Glass.
So the Smart Glass has what? Separate sub apps within it?
It knows what apps you have on Xbox.
Oh, okay.
So the apps that developers are now going to develop for Xbox, like HBO
Okay.
or Netflix, will have a Smart Glass component. They'll be able to tap into the Smart Glass API. So when you launch Smart Glass, it'll know on Smart
Okay,
Glass.
I can see that. So basically, it becomes like a fancy Harmony remote for your
That is
Xbox.
exactly it. And not only is it a Harmony remote in that you could control the Xbox and control the content, it feeds the content now back to Smart Glass.
I can see that working.
So for example, the demo, they gave 2 demos.
Now, you know what would also be great? I don't know if this is a feature. Is if for people that don't have Kinect, if you could also utilize the microphone on your tablet to do voice recognition, do voice search.
That
through,
would be
through it.
smart. I don't know if they'll actually do that. So the demo they gave, HBO Go, because there's already additional functionality in HBO Go content-wise. If you watch HBO Go on your iPad, you can watch the video, and then if you have it in, I think, portrait mode, you get the additional information on the bottom half of the screen.
Yeah.
Like you get the map of Westeros, or you get, here's some behind the scenes commentary, right? The enhanced experience.
But and by the way, that's fucking bullshit. I hate all that stuff. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody wrote a great article about this the other day.
It's just distractions.
Saying, like, the most immersive experience for Game of Thrones is just to fucking watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's if I'm sitting there with a thing going, here is the behind the scenes or whatever,
it's
like
for the
that's like
second.
taking me out of the
But
experience.
it's for the
with all
second
these
viewing.
distractions. I
But
guess.
it doesn't.
it's a DVD commentary.
But I mean, have you ever been tempted to do that? Does it in any way seem interesting to you?
There's always something more interesting than the extra garbage stuff that they pack in with that.
It's a problem with content. So if it's DVD commentary, if I have, like, if I'm watching a Blu-ray and I want to watch, James Cameron's commentary of
Avatar.
or Terminator 2, and it is, and I get the commentary on my screen with like photos.
But at that point, it's like show notes.
No, it is shown. I would love that. Not as the
Okay,
first
okay.
viewing, not as the original viewing, but if I want that commentary experience, I don't want that on the big screen.
I guess. I mean, it's all the Blu-ray features that
Yeah.
we've seen just pulled onto a second screen.
which is what Smart Glass is going to do. So they're going to allow HBO, they're going to allow Netflix or whoever to program content that will push the Smart Glass as your content video plays.
I don't think people are going to do it. It's a massive expense. It's going to take a ton of time.
Well-
it's producing a ridiculous amount of content. I don't see.
I don't
it
think they're
happening.
well. I don't think they're going to do the new content. What they're going to do though is right now when I watch TV show, even if it's like the first viewing, because I'm sometimes bored by TV, I'll IMDb as I watch TV.
Yeah, but see, I'm much more likely to be doing a crossword puzzle or on Twitter or something like that when I'm watching TV.
Sure, different people do different things. I
Yeah.
find that I IMDb a lot when I watch TV, and they demoed something that actually does what I would do. So they launched School of Rock was their video demo.
Yeah.
and as
You love School of Rock.
as the video played using Xbox, obviously. So it's a rented video or a video that you bought using the Xbox Video Service on the Smart Glass app on your iPad or your Windows 8 tablet. You got the options. You got your IMDb powered by Bing. You got all the movies that Jack Black has been in, or whoever is on screen at that time. Whoever.
Yeah, it was somebody weird when we were watching. I can't even remember it. Somebody who's
So when you have that moment of, oh, who is that
it's
actor?
Miranda Crossgrove.
Right. Who is that actress? Right. Oh, it's Miranda Crossgrove. On your tablet now, it'll say, okay, in this scene is Jack Black, is Miranda Crossgrove. You can click their names, and then you can have a list of all the scenes
Yeah,
that
but
they're
dude,
in that movie.
Nobody's
Or-
going to do that. It's a ridiculous amount of effort for the 5 people who are going to use Smart Glass that way.
I don't know why if the credits are already there.
But the credits are there for the final movie, not for who's in the scene right now, which is what they demoed.
So it's a team of people who just index movies. I mean, it's just data.
Yeah, but I don't get what the benefit of having that data is. This is something the TiVo app did ages ago, right? The TiVo app for iPad does the exact same thing. When you're watching Fallon and Jennifer Love Hewitt is on Fallon that night, it says, "Oh, Jennifer Love Hewitt's on Fallon. Do you want to see the other?"
So maybe they're already doing.
Do you want to record Portland? Do you want to record? She's on this episode of this, and she's on this weird masseuse show. And
Someone is doing it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't scene by scene. It was for the whole episode.
Sure. Regardless of how much work and how much money it will cost to actually make this useful, if they can find ways that users actually will use it and put money into those ways, if they find that through testing, a lot of people want to know about credits, a lot of people want to know trivia or want to know quotes that they can tweet or whatever, right?
They should just put Bejeweled down there. Because that's what people are doing while they're playing
maybe that's what they'll do eventually. Maybe Smart Glass will be a way for you to play a sponsored version of Bejeweled as you're watching TV.
That sounds horrible.
Because that's what people are doing. If they respond to what people actually are doing and not try to predict it and put money on that, then it'll be successful.
I think the AirPlay, the ability to play music and video and stuff like that, and
is more useful.
Photo slideshows is much more
and
useful.
Smart Glass is not that.
But I mean, they do have that. That is a thing that it works.
Not very well.
Well, okay.
Not as easy as iOS right now.
The fall update will make that easier. I'm sure. I would hope so.
I would hope so as well. But the ability right now to watch a video on YouTube and then have it immediately playing, in the back on the TV, because the Xbox just happens to be on, is not the same as the Apple TV.
The only way that would be better is if it was actually built into the TV and you hit the button and it switches to the right channel.
Well,
on the TV
you know what? If you buy an Apple television next year,
really?
That will probably be there
next March, maybe.
Yeah. The seamlessness. It's all about the seamlessness of it. Extra loading screens, extra steps. That's why right now with the Xbox Live application on iOS, the companion app, you can launch games and you can launch video with that. It just doesn't work. Like when you launch it, it'll load the Xbox video loading screen, like for Hugo or something, and it'll give you the option to rent the movie or buy it, or a game. It'll go to the game. The arcade menu, but
you're
it
saying
won't
there have to be no
game.
speed bumps.
No speed
I
bumps.
agree with that.
And right now, it is all speed bumps.
And honestly, even on the Apple TV side, I don't know what it is, but sometimes even my Apple TV is kind of squirrely. I'll try to AirPlay something, and I'll just get the little.
Like
it won't always connect up.
Yeah, it won't kick out.
Right. And the other thing is, Apple TV, I think, is still going to be more preferred because it's low power, it's low noise. I don't want to have my Xbox on all the time.
There's going to be a 99. This time next year, they're going to announce the PSONE version of the Xbox that is one chip in an Apple TV.
And just arcade games and
just downloadable stuff.
You know what? That would be awesome.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah, I would like that.
The other interesting thing about Smart Glass, it's like I think the thing that we're not talking about enough, which is the important part, is actually the finding content on the service side of it. Because right now, the big reason I don't like. Well, okay. First off, search inside HBO Go doesn't work right, so you can't search inside the different. Some of the content apps will let you search within them. Some of them won't.
Speed bumps.
Yeah, if that stuff worked properly and you had a keyboard interface on your phone, you could just, I'll open the app and boom, it launches really fast and I can type in what I want.
Xfinity does a better job.
It's just why when I'm using the Xbox, I have the keyboard attachment for the controller, which anytime I know I'm going to be searching media, I always use that thing.
Right, but then you
still
have to
less
use
than
a
ideal
game controller to type your stuff. And also that keyboard is awful. Like the keys are all in the wrong places and it's hard to...
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. Okay, other stuff from Microsoft. We talked about IE10 on Xbox a little bit. I think this is moderately interesting at best. The neat thing here is that you can. This is where the AirPlay stuff, the AirPlay equivalent comes in, because you can blast a URL from your phone or your tablet to the IE10 on the browser, and it takes you directly to the page, so you can share it with everybody in the room.
And use your pinch zoom on the phone.
That's cool.
Exactly.
All right.
And use the phone as a trackpad. The demo that they were giving of the phone being used as a trackpad was one of those ones where you like are swiping like this to go across the screen. They'll fix that by the time they have to fix it by the time it's launched, or it's going to be useless.
Yeah.
If they can't get web browsing on TV right by now,
there've been so many poor efforts.
But if you can use the phone as a trackpad or something like that versus using a gamepad,
that's the key.
It's actually kind of like.
Have you tried browsing using AirPlay mirroring?
Yeah,
using Safari.
Yeah,
it works completely smooth, but the font just doesn't look right.
Yeah, because the pixels are wrong.
Yeah, DPI isn't good.
Yeah. Well, no, it's because it's
rendering for a different DPI.
And then, do we want to talk about games? Halo 4, Gears of War.
Well, before we even get onto games, again, I think Microsoft wasn't even done with the non-game stuff, right? Xbox Music, Nike Plus, like there was a whole bunch of like non-game applications that they're really going into that.
They have
stuff.
an app ecosystem coming out of the end of this generation. They're in a position to lead going into the next.
We have been talking probably for the last 10 years about the war for the living room and one box to rule them all and all that. I kind of feel like we're actually getting there.
Well,
Don't you think?
So this Xbox, the Xbox stuff that we saw, the IE on the on the Xbox especially, kind of makes me think, because for a while, there's always been talks about the third screen, right? Because the idea is that one screen is the computer, one screen is the phone, and for a long time we were supposed to believe that the third screen was the living room.
They're calling it second screen.
I understand. Well, okay, so
second screen is with the hot buzzword.
Okay, so the second screen was supposed to be the living room. And then tablets came out, and that I think immediately usurped the TV as a second screen.
No, I'm saying they're saying second screen as the tablet or whatever you're holding on the couch is your second screen.
Yeah, that's already ingrained in our habits. It's just that second screen exists because what's on the first screen isn't interesting enough to hold our full attention. Like I'm looking at Twitter or the internet, whatever, while the bait car or whatever is on TV.
I love bait car. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how that ships. That'll all be part of the fall update. So after Windows 8 is out and they update the Xbox console, and hopefully, last year they made it a lot worse. So hopefully this next one will be a lot better, right?
Right.
They can't make it a whole lot worse. I can't imagine what they would do to make it worse.
And also, since we were talking about HBO and stuff like that, just as a side issue, just real quick, I thought it was interesting that we've been seeing this groundswell of people that want to that would love HBO to offer their service a la carte. Like I just pay $10 a month for HBO Go.
Yeah.
There's a big website now that's got a lot of people signed up and they're really petitioning HBO. There have been a lot of interesting articles though from people that actually are in the business who are trying to explain to these people, yeah, it sounds great, but the model just doesn't work way.
We've had conversations, and yeah, like they're making way more than
Ari
$10
Gold,
a month
Ari
on
Emanuel
us.
explained it pretty clearly. The amount of money it takes and to make those shows, it could not be supported by a subscription.
It has to come through the cable carriage fees.
Yeah.
They can't do it through like $10 a month subscriptions.
I think they did a survey. I think $12 was the average price that someone would pay for a la carte HBO.
So what's Comcast paying HBO for each person?
Well,
is it just that Comcast gives them a minimum guarantee?
Those amounts are obviously very contentious. This is why AMC and Dish Network are in a big fight right now.
Right.
But that's where the money comes from. You can look at the Netflix model and say, well, look, Netflix is now taking its $8. They're obviously got a huge user base, $8 a month, and they are now starting to be able to create their own HBO-like content. But it's just a toe in the water to create the full suite of content HBO offers, and boxing and all the movies that they run. Look at Game of Thrones. That ain't a fucking cheap show to make.
You look.
None of their stuff is cheap.
They have three series running at any given time most of the year.
Yeah,
and that's a shitload of TV to produce, especially high quality.
And it's all prestige stuff.
Yeah,
and it might end up being like a Hulu Plus model where you pay $15 a month or $20 a month just to get it on computer, but if you want it in the living room, it's extra $5 or something.
I don't know. I think that
unfortunately
the incremental stuff is bad.
The model is there in that you would just buy the discs. If you really want the content that much. That's
the price
you've just got to deal with it.
The one thing I would say is that Netflix is starting to suffer. It seems like people are icing Netflix out because I don't know if you've been watching lately, but the quality of new stuff coming to Netflix has decreased sharply in the last, let's say, 6 months.
Instant stream has never been fantastic on par with the disc.
Well, for a while it kind of peaked, and now we're seeing
there was a huge explosion of suddenly instant.
Like
instant used to be just like Sci-Fi Channel movies and just garbage, and now. Yeah, it's actually become quite good, but I think you're right that it has kind of plateaued.
Well, the expectations are higher.
We've seen peak Netflix.
The expectations of instant stream being a value add and now it being the primary service.
Right. Well, the thing is, the studios realized that pricing that at $8 a month was gouging their eyes out, and here we are. Let's talk about Sony real quick. They didn't have any hardware to show. We saw a couple of Move games.
Move, I think, Wonder Book aside, I think Sony clearly I realize that they're throwing good money after bad probably with Move
of the big three booths at E3, and this is something I guess you can only get from going on the show floor. Sony's was the most empty. There's the most consoles,
and usually it's full
open,
which is a shame because I actually thought they had some of the better looking games.
So definitely there was a line for the the All Stars game.
I think
and a line to see God of War
and Dust and stuff.
The
like
sad
that,
thing
but
about the sad thing about the PlayStation All Stars game, and I think some other people have commented on it just is a great way to illustrate how not great their stable of first party IPs are.
But
They really had to stretch it to fill out that roster of characters.
Looking at the roster of characters, though, like
No, I
there's
think
more
it's-
there than I
That's
thought.
more indicative of the type of games you get in Sony. That don't cater to like the action games. Like, Heavy Rain, great game, but you're not going to get Heavy Rain characters in that kind of game.
I mean, I don't know why anybody's going to play that game as anything other than Parappa.
How do you play it like Parappa?
He's one of the characters. I'm just playing Parappa.
Oh,
the
I
whole
see.
time.
Okay.
Nothing but Parappa.
Yeah, Parappa versus Nathan Drake. I mean,
Perfect.
if nothing else, where else are you going to see that?
I mean, those games are always ridiculous. I mean, well, I say those games, but I mean, Smash Brothers has always been really ridiculous.
But as a big fan of Heavy Rain, I'm very excited to see the new David Cage game. That looks exciting.
Yeah.
I thought The Last of Us looked phenomenal. And
Yeah.
Naughty
Beyond
Dog,
and
can
Last
do
of
no
Us.
wrong in my eyes.
As a dude who isn't a huge fan of Uncharted, I am stoked about Last of Us, if for no other reason than it is something different, and tension from having a fight with three dudes sounds really good.
What do you think about Wonder Book?
I do not. It was interesting. It was very telling to me that Nintendo didn't show any augmented reality stuff after they've been pushing it really hard for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I do not.
Yeah, and again, it was a demo, but it didn't work great. More than once, the Sony guy had to say, "It's a live demo, folks."
Here's the problem. The fundamental problem with Wonder Book and all that augmented reality stuff is it's really cool in demos, and then when you actually try to use it, like if you're playing Connectimals and you're watching the screen, but the thing's supposed to be in front of you, or even worse, you have to manipulate a physical object.
Yeah.
You're looking up at the screen while you're trying to move something with your hands that's in front of you, and it doesn't work right.
And it just doesn't work that great. Like I was watching that demo, and a couple of times the game was asking the player to draw a Z shape.
Yeah.
With the remote, and she had to do it. I mean, how fucking difficult is that for the game to run? She did it like 3 or 4 times before it would pick it up.
I honestly, I think one of the more interesting things that came out of the Sony stuff is the PlayStation Plus announcement that it seems like they're going to bring a lot more high value first party games to PlayStation Plus, like Infamous 2 and stuff like that. So it's like if you look at that as a value add versus and having free Netflix on that platform and free Hulu and whatever else they end up bringing to it over the next year versus Microsoft paying $60 a year for live, and in order to get Netflix and HBO Go you have to pay for that.
Right.
I think having free games is much more attractive to, I think that shows a shift. I think Sony's going to go after core gamers more, the kind of people who are playing Metal Gear and Heavy Rain.
And I got to tell, in the long
Halo.
term, I mean, Microsoft makes too much money off it right now for them to consider it. But I think that the gold thing has to go away, especially
they had the value proposition has to become better.
Well,
something has to change.
I mean, it's okay for gold to be. That's what you need if you want to play online. But to just watch video and use those services. I'm already paying $8 a month for Netflix and $8 a month for Hulu Plus, and I'm paying for Amazon Prime Video, and I've got to pay an extra $50 just to get access to those on the box that I want. Come on.
Well, they're not going to make that free.
I mean,
they're not, but it's annoying. It is
annoying.
As much as I said to somebody,
if I
would say to you, "Oh, get an Xbox, 'cause that's the one box you need in the living room," I've then got to say, "Oh, but you have to pay $50 a year for the service if you want to do anything
$60 a year for the service.
anything interesting."
Yeah.
The thing to remember is if it depends how they're approaching that market. If they want to capture my mom and dad who don't give a shit about games but do love their Roku because they can watch YouTube and they can watch, well, they can't watch YouTube on the Roku, but they can watch HBO and
well, again, depends on your.
Well, they have a provider
supplier.
that lets them watch HBO, so they can watch HBO and Netflix and stuff like that on the Roku. They are not going to be interested in paying $60 a month, even if the Xbox is a year, even if the Xbox is $99. They don't give a shit. There's no value there for them. Mm-hmm. So
Regardless of
Microsoft has to
experience.
address that. Yeah.
Explain to what's the thinking at the Comcast level of they'll allow HBO Go on my Xbox but not on my Roku box. What's the difference?
Well, I'm sure HBO charges more for living room access to HBO Go than they like. I'm sure there's separate pricing schemes. So HBO says, okay, if you want to get HBO Go only on mobile devices, that's X much from Comcast extra per user or whatever, per seat or site or whatever. I don't know how licensing works.
It's pretty amazing that HBO Go is not a extra charge.
I don't shh.
I think it's amazing. Like that worked out somehow between someone paid someone else.
Norm.
Because I mean, you're right. We shouldn't talk about it, but Norm is right in that. Aside interface issues aside, it is a phenomenal service.
We don't need to get into that. Everybody likes it, except for the fact that the app kind of is shit.
on Xbox.
On Xbox. The reason it's not on Roku, I think, is because when Microsoft rolled out HBO Go and everybody got it, Comcast customers, the volume of complaints and vitriol going toward Microsoft was such that they said, "Hey, Comcast and HBO, what do we have to pay you to make this happen?
Right.
Just for us."
and you know what? That's what your live fee.
That's where your 60 bucks
Yeah, and I
goes.
feel like I feel like HBO was looking at Microsoft as like a real premium partner because they cut special promos for how HBO Go is now on Xbox 360.
Yep.
Like they made a big deal out
So
of it.
you are paying more for HBO Go. You're just paying it to Microsoft instead of to HBO, and then Microsoft pays HBO.
Yeah.
Or Microsoft pays Comcast, who pays HBO. I don't know.
Does Apple pay HBO?
There's no HBO Go on Apple TV.
But there's
Right.
an iOS.
Well, yeah, but HBO Go developed their own app for iOS.
Yeah.
So they were improving their relationship with their customers. Somehow Apple managed to make it marketing.
I mean-
and Microsoft had to pay them to get it to turn on.
the big step that I
Or
think
Comcast, I
the
don't
big
know.
step for the
All
Apple TV hockey puck device next is going to be like the Xbox style app market where I can go get whatever
course.
channels I want to get and not
Or
because
the
it is
iOS
as much as
style app market is what
it's
we really
annoying because I
want.
want to leave Apple TV on because you want to be able to just AirPlay at the drop of a hat, but it doesn't have Amazon Prime, it doesn't have HBO Go, it doesn't have Hulu, it doesn't have a lot of the services that I pay for and want to have access to.
Just to be clear, I don't want the Xbox app marketplace. I want the iOS app store where people can develop their own apps and just release them, and it's a fucking Wild West free for all out there. Because that's where we, as dudes who like to watch video from the internet and from other sources, are going to get the biggest bang for our buck.
Well, it's never going to be a Wild West free for all. You're still going to go through an approval
still gonna be
process,
approval,
but
yeah. Let's see. You
But yeah, you want to be able to get the giant bomb, the tested channel, right? Right. You develop that app, put it up there, have Apple approve it, and it's all good.
let's
talk about
Nintendo.
something that we actually played and spent a lot of time with.
And you did have a little. We didn't have hands on, but you got to see the magic
close.
screen
Video
up
built
close.
tomorrow.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
So Wii U.
Oh,
Yeah.
and also, just in case it's not on your list, I'm just putting that so you don't forget it. Did any of you get to play with the John Carmack VR helmet? Because I heard it was pretty great.
They're going to bring it on a road show. We didn't get an appointment for that.
I heard it was pretty impressive, though.
No one. This is the problem. Is if you're not going to do total coverage and do all the briefings, then you don't get the appointments, and they never tell you what the appointments are for until you get there. So we didn't take a Bethesda appointment.
Okay, but did you hear about it? Because
I saw a picture. I saw
it was-
pictures of it and saw
talked
Felicia
about
Day
it.
using it.
It sounded
talked
good.
about
And I have
it.
no trouble believing it. If John Carmack has put this out, you just kind of feel like there's no way it's going to be shitty.
Well, I know
No,
he
it's not a
was.
real product. It's just a fun project.
It's
Right.
some cool shit that John Carmack does for fun.
I'm just saying that compared to like that Sony helmet that I thought was shitty, I think this is probably not that. I think it's probably
He took one of those Sony
what that
helmets
wants to
apart
be.
find out how it ticks.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Nintendo because we saw
All
Wii
right.
U and got to play games and saw the real controller. The new controller, they've added a second analog stick from last year.
Good.
The touchscreen seems much more responsive. I couldn't tell from the games that they had there if it was multi-touch or not. But they're using a stylus as well, so I assume it's probably still resistive, but just a good resistive
Very
screen.
best resistive.
Like works with thumbs and everything. It didn't feel abnormally large.
Can you
I mean,
see
it's
yourself
definitely
getting
big.
one?
Yeah, probably. I'll get
probably
one because
buy
I'll
one.
play Mario.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, is it going to be the same old story though, where it's like you buy it and it's worth it for the handful of like great
I'm
first
okay
party
with that.
games, but beyond that, yeah, I mean,
So-
for me also,
yeah.
We talked a lot about the second screen being a theme of E3, and Nintendo, more than any other company,
this is baked right into the
is
restead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of
It's not
saying-
optional. I mean, it's the kit. You get
Exactly.
the second screen
The
right
second
there in the
screen
kit.
is the controller. You're gonna have it in your hands no matter what. The second screen is super light, and you're talking about wanting a light tablet because nothing is being rendered on that controller. It is literally a controller with a screen that
Well, these were also tethered, so we don't know that they had
they
batteries.
said
in them.
wireless. Oh, I mean,
Well, the eventual one will be wireless. The ones we were handling, I do not believe.
Now-
they said it was tethered for security.
the battery life on that thing sounds
3
pretty
to 4
grim.
hours is the word.
yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 hour charge time, 3.5 hour play time. That
You
ain't
know what?
great.
That means that you're not. It's not going to replace your iPad. You might be sitting on the living room couch playing whatever new Angry Birds Nintendo edition for 2 hours.
There's going to have
and
to be a
then-
very long play and charge cable. Basically.
And then you go switch over to the iPad when you go to bed.
I think so there's a couple of neat things. First off, the same stuff applies as last year. Any game that's one screen game you can play on the tablet, on the controller, or on the screen. So like if Leah wants to watch The Bachelorette, or if you want to watch The Bachelorette and Leah wants to play New Super Mario Brothers Wii, she can do that on the tablet while you're watching The Bachelorette on the main TV.
That is pretty cool.
Which is pretty neat.
And it jumps from the TV to the controller.
Now, Mike from Penny Arcade retweeted something. I guess it was Reddit or someone came up with this, but this to me is the genius idea: is Dungeons and Dragons with the DM using the touchscreen device, and everyone else playing with their controllers on the main screen.
So that is
genius.
That's the
whole point.
That something like that is where you see the potential of this setup.
The whole point of Wii U. The stuff with
the return of couch gaming is what they're pushing.
4 dudes, five people on a couch, 4 people with motion plus controllers,
right?
And 1 with a Wii U controller or 2 Wii U controllers.
So I still don't. We're so fucking jaded. I get that. They didn't show anything. Yeah, here's a new Mario game. Here's a new Luigi game. Here's a new whatever. Well, but why aren't we more? I mean, this is really. We always complain about everything's the same, and we looked at Sony, we looked at Microsoft, everything looked kind of the same. And here's Nintendo saying, here's something genuinely new. Asynchronous gaming in terms of the kind of design.
That's not genuinely new, but
so not asynchronous, asymmetrical.
Yeah,
asymmetrical gaming where I'm not playing on the same playing field as you. I have a different experience, different controller. I see things you don't see. Yeah. That's really interesting. It's new, and your mind just bubbles over it. All the potential.
Here's the problem with it: the demos they all showed, even the Super Mario,
even the good demos,
even when the full game, New Super Mario Brothers U, it all felt like tech demos. Still, it didn't feel like it
mini game
reached
collection.
The potential of this asymmetrical gaming. It wasn't Dungeons and Dragons.
Patrick
by a long shot.
Played the thief thing, which like Nintendo Spy Party was how he described, which sounded great. Even the little Pac-Man versus Luigi Mansion game.
The Luigi Mansion was the best thing we played.
Yeah,
that was like the Wii. What was it called?
Nintendo
Chase
Land.
Me. Yeah, so Nintendo Land is their Wii Sports equivalent. We don't know if it's gonna be bundled. 12 mini games to demonstrate the potential of the new Wii U controller with some single player, some multiplayer games.
Right. Some of them will obviously be better than others, just as happened with Wii Sports.
But just like Wii Sports, these are mini games, and so it's not your Dungeons and Dragons. The Luigi's Mansion game, where 4 people are hunting a ghost, and the person playing the ghost has a Wii U controller, sees a different perspective.
But much like Wii Sports, which was a huge driver for the Wii in the early days, it was, like you said, it was kind of it was what introduced you to this new way of playing games.
Very novel, very fun, and it's going to be up to Nintendo to not make the same mistake they did with Wii and the Wii controller and have them all be mini game like every 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line.
We're still getting Wii Party,
still getting
Wii Sports
Resort.
The category that sells on Wii seems to be mini game collection, right? And the other problem with the Nintendo Land thing is specifically was that some of those games were real bad. Some of those mini games were real rough.
I mean, I think also
boring.
The Donkey Kong one is nothing different than you could get on iOS.
I mean, I think the other thing is that because it will now finally have some kind of parity with at least the current gen, is that, they said, Mass Effect 3 is coming. It's like, okay, that I can see there actually being a legitimate iteration of Mass Effect 3 on that with the Pro Controller. It'd be just the same as playing on any other system, whereas opposed to with the Wii, because it was so underpowered, you couldn't just bring games over. You had to do a special kind of, down-raised version
kind of port.
That was shitty.
Even the Arkham, even the Arkham City stuff and the Assassin's Creed demo they had playing, I don't think it looked as good as PS3 and 360.
I mean, but
I would disagree.
There were also some signs I felt,
you played both of those games on PC.
Maybe that's it.
So you're thinking about something different. Yeah. Assassin's Creed and Arkham City do not look. I mean, they. If you looked at them on the Xbox, you would think they look like shit if you played them on the PC. That's
the other thing, though, is it kind of felt like when I looked at especially Arkham City, it looked like the same problem that a lot of third-party developers had on the Wii, which is where they handed them this totally new control paradigm. They're like, well,
and the DS,
our game wasn't really designed for that, but we'll find a way to shoehorn some features
here's some
in.
menus on the screen. But that's why there's also the more core game controller.
Yeah, so I got to play with that some. I played a little bit of Rayman Legends, which is the follow-up to Rayman Origins, which came out last year and was one of my favorite games of the year. And they had this weird kind of asymmetrical gameplay mode where one person would use the Wii controller with the screen and was kind of a helper. So they would go and hit plants to make coins pop out.
New Super Mario Brothers U.
No, that as well.
That's the thing. It's the same idea. If all platformers, if the Wii controller, the new Wii U controller just becomes a helper and you're just tapping to create platforms or stun enemies.
It was much more fleshed out in Rayman.
That is uninteresting in the long run.
No, the difference between Mario Brothers and Rayman is on Rayman you couldn't have completed the levels without help. On Super Mario,
I don't like that
Brothers,
either.
You had to complete the levels. The other person was just extra, unnecessary.
I don't know if I like that either.
I think there's going to be a
Depends on the
handful
game.
of games that really. There's going to be a handful of games out there that really nail this concept. It's like, oh, this is so much fun. I love this. I can't get this experience anywhere else. Beyond that, who knows?
It's always the case. I mean, if you look at the DS, it's the perfect example. It took literally a year before we first started seeing games that really used the two screens to good benefit and to actually make interesting gameplay experiences.
And you know what?
Then it was 3 before we saw things like The World Ends With
Do you think there's a chance that history could repeat itself? Obviously, so the Wii came out, right? It was super disruptive. Motion control. Nintendo and Sony both followed with Connect and Move. That if Wii U is a similar success as Wii was in the early days, that 2 E3s now you will see Microsoft with their second screen and Sony with their
already
second
done that
screen.
They have their second screen. That's what Smart Glass is.
It will work with games. Madden.
Right.
When you're playing Madden,
And Sony's going to do that with
you
the
can
Vita
have
for
your
sure.
your tablet running, Windows, iOS or iPad running Smart Glass, playing Madden on Xbox 360. You get your plays.
Oh,
on
and
your
you've got
iPad.
your playbook, right? Okay, yeah.
A few things I did like about the new Wii.
By the way,
controller.
Dreamcast fucking had this nailed 10 years ago, 12 years ago with the VMU. They were ahead of the game on this.
That was real light.
but you
man.
could see the seeds of it though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The beginning was there.
Yeah.
And nobody used it. 'Cause
Yeah.
Dreamcast had games for a year.
It was what a year
It was
though.
a good year. The core controller, the core game controller, the traditional gamepad.
Pro, yeah, that just
Very
looks like the
comfortable.
Xbox pad. Yeah.
Yeah. Very comfortable. I like the Nintendo D-pad a lot. I love the Plus style D-pad, the one that they have the patent on.
So my fear, also the good games I saw there, for example, Scribblenauts Unlimited,
Yeah.
look really fun.
Oh yeah, Scribblenauts look great.
look great. I could see that on iOS. There's no reason that game.
There's absolutely no reason
iPad.
that couldn't be an iOS game.
Having two screens just because I can type in the word on the controller and see and still have that the world on the big screen. There's no reason that couldn't be on iOS.
I think the big difference this generation from the previous one is that handheld games are moving a lot to iOS because an iPod Touch is a lot cheaper in the long term to buy a kid to play games on the go than a 3DS. And the people who are playing Wii Bowling and probably only bought Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort and Wii Play for their Wii are probably playing Facebook games now. I think the market for both of those platforms has eroded in the last 6 years.
And what
5
Nintendo
years.
needs to not do is just shoehorn, Facebook and Twitter and web browsing and IM onto the Wii U controller.
They have to
We
get
don't need
social. They have to get multiplayer
that. No, we
stuff.
don't need.
No. What I was saying is they have to do it in a way that actually makes sense and is fun.
Yeah.
And without multiplayer matchmaking and that kind of stuff, friends list that actually is sensical, then they're not like their gamble is that they want to attract core gamers with the gamepad and with kind of next gen experiences to this
Right.
platform. But they don't get that if they don't get multiplayer.
And
right.
take your
they fucked
lessons.
it up every time.
Take your lessons learned from DS. Right. Imagine drawing. What's that DS drawing game that's built in? PictoChat.
PictoChat.
PictoChat across different Wii U. In between around.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and they have that right. Even whatever they call it, like the new version of like the Mi Plaza, which is like their main kind of social hub. Again, you're going to see lots of pictures of penises and things. I don't know how they're going to be able to. Apparently Nintendo said they're aggressively. Nintendo's they're in a uniquely difficult position in that they clearly want to add more social features because that's where people are going, and the other systems are great at that. But they also have to be much more careful of they don't want the griefing and the sexual harassment and all the things that are synonymous with Xbox and PlayStation Online gaming. So they kind of have to walk a very fine line.
And also, I don't know that Japan still cares about kind of social multiplayer stuff at all.
Right.
So I guess that's it for news. Anything else we want to hit before we go? Do you want to talk about Ray Bradbury now? He died.
It was very sad.
Ray Bradbury?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he had a great innings, 91, and contributed a tremendous amount. I love fucking Ray Bradbury, some of the greatest science fiction ever written.
He wrote Fahrenheit 51, right?
451, yeah. Yeah,
I
and
read
Martian
that,
Chronicles
and
and
that's before that.
and about a million other things that were all excellent.
See, it's funny. As a kid growing up, I didn't really read a whole lot of that stuff because it hadn't aged particularly well, and I kind of skipped ahead 40 years and I went back and read Heinlein and some of that stuff later, Isaac Asimov and some of that. But Ray Bradbury, I never really.
I don't think a lot of people who read him
anymore.
knew he was still alive.
Yeah, I mean, well, he kind of turned into a crank in his old age.
I mean, you put him in the era of Asimov, who's been gone for a while, and I mean, in terms of influence.
But I mean, they were publishing at the same time.
Yeah,
Heinlein and Asimov and Bradbury and
it's very sad.
Yes,
Uh,
Arthur C. Clarke.
I do want to go back to some of the E3 games that we didn't talk about outside of the big three publishers, the hardware makers.
We didn't talk about Ubisoft at all, because who were supposed to have won E3.
I don't think
And it
you
was,
can
but that was
win E3.
mostly to do that Watch Dogs demo
Dogs.
that they showed.
That game looked really amazing.
Which looked terrific.
So when we talk about this E3 being
Sorry. Before we leave off, no Nintendo discussion can be complete without talking about Lego City Undercover, which looked amazing.
one of those things I didn't see any of. Describe it.
GTA
Yeah.
in the Lego City,
Huh. Okay.
and you're an undercover cop busting Lego criminals.
Because you know
Are there
the cop,
Lego
the cop.
prostitutes, and is it
Watch
an M-rated
when
game?
we're done. You can watch the trailer.
I'd love to
and-
play an M-rated Lego game.
You know, because the cop set is the most popular set in
Right.
Lego.
It's about as M-rated as you can imagine a Lego game getting.
Wow.
But it looks like a lot of fun.
Does the cop smack the perp and their head spins
So this
around?
is. Are you saying
Well,
this
there's a scene where he's got like a bad guy like dangling him over a roof, saying, "Tell me what you know."
wow, this is like their Saints Row.
Pretty much.
And then the guy, and then he tells him, and he pushes him off the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can actually kill anyone in
I bet
Lego.
you
but-
Pieces just fall
they
apart.
Pieces
and
fall
then
apart.
come
Yeah.
back together.
and it's got the buildy.
Interesting.
It's got all that great stuff.
I wish that was up to the Nintendo booth, and we didn't have time to look at it.
Well,
unfortunately.
you watch the trailer. It's pretty great.
So Ubi, the other game that everybody said when we didn't get to see because it was behind closed doors only was really amazing looking is the LucasArts Star Wars.
So-
game.
Oh, 13.
That's what I was about to say. It being a transition year, some of the games that were shown behind closed doors or trailers shown could be for the next generation. So Watch Dogs, I don't know if they said it will be for PS3 or 360, but it looks so good that they couldn't help
The footage of the Star Wars game that I saw did not look like it was targeting current generation hardware. That's a next gen game.
Brad said it did not look like a current generation
He
game.
said they ran on a beefy PC and it was under 30 FPS.
I mean, look, it just doesn't make any sense to release a game that big at the tail end of a generation when
Right.
you could be one of the first
Well,
out of the gate as a flagship game for the next gen next year.
Unless you Activision it and do a release it like Gun, where it was released on an Xbox and Xbox 360 and PS2.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
PS3
right. No, I don't think they're
simultaneously.
going to do that. It looked pretty good.
And Call of Duty 3, right? Yeah, I'm excited about both. I think that next year we're going to see new hardware. I think I think the PS3 might go away. I don't think the Xbox is going to go. The Xbox 360 will go away for a long time.
No, the Xbox 360 is going to have a PS2 style shelf
Well,
life.
assuming Microsoft wants it too. But I think probably won't.
There's no
least
reason
for arcade.
why it cannot. But I think next E3 at all the conferences you will see the announcements of the new Sony and Microsoft hardware, and it'll come out maybe not that year, but sometime early.
So the actual
2014.
games. Watch Dogs look great. The trailer.
Yep.
That's another most likely next gen title, I think.
Assassin's Creed. Will,
Yep.
you saw that?
Yeah,
really good.
that I'm excited. I'm not well. So those games are weird because the thing that they do to make you feel like a badass is they set the combat up in such a way that you get really crazy like counters and blocks and all sorts of stuff like that, right?
It looked beautiful. It kind of made me wish that I'd
Right.
gotten into the Assassin's Creed franchise at the beginning, but I never have. So I don't feel invested in the mythology or anything. But the latest game looks great.
So it looks really gorgeous, but because of the addition of guns, ubiquitous guns, because the Renaissance era game had some guns, but they were unusual.
That is a challenge now. How do you fight?
Yeah.
Muskets.
But the combat that I saw looked a bit like I'm fighting 12 British soldiers, but they're all kind of patiently waiting their turn to
That's
fight
the thing.
me.
Is it? Well, it wasn't they were patiently waiting their turn to fight you. Is that they would wait until you grab the guy to block the shot,
Right.
to shoot.
Right.
So the timing on that stuff, in order for it to be believable, has to be really tight. And I kind of didn't see that in the demo, and it was a live demo, so it could have just been that the guy had done it 35 times that day.
It was realistic enough in the sense that if you miss the first time, then the assassin's going to be able to come in and kill you because it's like
Well, you get one
reloading
shot.
a gun in that area is
Yeah.
a big deal. Yeah.
But the timing of that for like if the guys get, I mean maybe and this is something I hadn't really thought about, but maybe the idea is that you wait until you're sure you have the good shot before you shoot. If you're the red coat with the gun, but it looked really nice.
This makes me want to play the game where I'm the red coat with the gun and every shot counts.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think that's The Last of Us. Honestly, I think if you're
is
talking
Last of
about
Us.
like talking to some of the Naughty Dog guys, because the one thing about E3 that's weird lately is that it seems like everybody you see at E3 is at Naughty Dog. It's either ex Future people or Naughty Dog people. That's all. That's the only people that are at E3. But talking to those guys, it seems like the idea of getting tension from a small combat situations with a handful of bullets and ammo scarcity
Yeah.
is going to be like a System Shock kind of experience.
It's funny, it's-
without the kind of weird design.
That's actually a rare example of a game that I would probably want to play on the harder difficulty, because I was looking at it and I saw the guy got shot, and it's like, really, like if you really want to present this kind of world, a gunshot wound should really mean something. I don't want to just be able to eat a chicken leg and it goes away.
I like chicken legs.
Well, me too, but like in that kind of game, I feel like that's one of those things where if you get shot, then that you're either dead or you're really in a lot of trouble.
Well, and also a world where where headshots are hard. Like you don't aim for the head, you aim for the body, and you just aim to wound and then finish off
and
later.
They've done a great job with animation to make that.
The melee combat and everything looked great. I do wonder. Here's one other thing I want to say that I found a bit depressing is there's a lot of war porn in games these days. I lost count on the number of fucking high-tech modern warfare games that I saw in these trailers.
Well, I mean that's the game industry chasing the.
I'm tired of this whole dude bro thing, and during the Last of Us demo, which presents very realistic seeming horrible melee combat where you're like basically beating some guy's head against the floor to kill him, and the audience is going woo, like it's just so sophomoric and just kind of juvenile.
Yeah,
like,
but
really, that's what we're cheering.
During that kind of press conference, you have to remember that Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo and EA and Ubi are pulling in employees and super fans from PlayStation fan sites and Nintendo fan sites and Xbox fan sites to fill in that audience so that there's plenty of cheering. I
get it. It's just that they're choosing to cheer at the moments that are really kind of
when we talked to Naughty Dog, they said the exact same thing where they had a longer demo. They wanted to show off the cool crafting stuff and a little bit more of the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
But what demos
you have to show the greatest
is
hits.
action.
Yeah.
It's the same thing happened. I mean, Hitman has the same thing. I'm sure you might have been out of the games industry by the time Hitman rolled around, but like I remember going to see Hitman and Hitman 3 and especially Blood Money, like going into one of those games knowing how to play was one thing, but the first Hitman, when they brought that around and you were looking at it, it was a really bad demo. Like you played that and you're like, oh man, these guys are completely fucked because this game is going to be really hard for people to learn how to play because stealth games don't show well in the first 10 minutes, right? You can't spend 5 minutes looking at a stealth game and get what that is about. You can't spend 5 minutes with Civ Rev and get what that game's going to be about. And I think games like XCOM and Hitman and Splinter Cell kind of I want to play those games. I want to spend 3 hours with those games, not 5 minutes looking at a clip reel.
Yeah, they're tough games to demo.
And honestly, just E3 in general, unless you can sit down and play a game for a while, like Jeff and Judges and those guys that have actually time and are there for 4 days do. It's not. You don't get a good
even
idea
when the
what
booth is open, even when the kiosk is open. I'm not going to go jump into Far Cry 2 or Far Cry 3 and play for a bit because it's not how I want to play it. The game.
Yeah, I agree.
Other stuff that looked really good. I mean, fuck, Borderlands. I just want to play some Borderlands. I'm always down for more Borderlands.
XCOM.
I cannot be.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, just
on the 2 XComs.
Yeah, they are.
Well, one is the shooter, one is the turn-based. The shooter got delayed. The turn-based one's coming out later this year.
Probably more excited about the turn-based ones, to be honest.
Well, it's for Axis.
Sid Meier's programming it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like I just think about what they did with Civ Rev and then Civ 5 to make like that kind of game, which I was never really good at until I started playing Civ Rev.
I mean, you talk about the StarCraft and Diablo effect where you have these games that come out 10 years after the last version and you have the same memory of how that game looks, but how you remember it. XCOM has even more difficult challenge, but from all accounts, the animation, it's not just like bumping up colors and real animation. It's actually the XCOM world come to life.
Well, because XCOM was like 2 games. I mean, there's the turn-based tactical game, and then there was this big strategic game that was almost like a meta game on top of it. That was, I think, like if you look at the PC games, if you look at the games I played early in the age of modern gaming, you know, I played a lot of the Microprose and Brody Run stuff early, way early, XT and AT era. But when I got a 386, the games I played were Wolfenstein, X-Wing, and then XCOM. And I mean, I'm really excited to see what they do with that franchise.
I couldn't tell you what I would give for a new X-Wing.
Oh well, I would.
Can you imagine?
I would kill every one of you right now. I would gun you.
I wouldn't
down.
give it a second thought.
Yeah, a TIE fighter though, really more than. I mean, X-Wing would be nice, but I'd take a TIE.
And XCOM's also weird because people love it so much. Like Dan Stapleton loves XCOM, and he has loved the spiritual successors XCOM.
Yeah.
So even way back,
he's real desperate.
You had like Incubation, like turn-based strategy, sci-fi.
Just look that up.
I played Incubation.
Okay.
Demo on PC Gamer Disc.
Okay.
Way back in '97. And what's the more recent one? I forget its name. Xenonauts. Like,
oh right, yeah, I forgot about that.
There are a lot of games that people who either work on XCOM or love XCOM have made, and so for this game to come out and actually be XCOM, there are high expectations.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Excited about the new SimCity too.
Yes,
I
I always
didn't see
down
that,
for
but-
SimCity. We didn't get to see that, unfortunately.
Although there was some story going around this week that's very distressing, that apparently you can't just build up your city and then just rain disasters on it like you could in the old games.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of weird stuff going around with that. I know Stapleton was on Twitter talking about things that were and were not possible.
Yeah, but it looks terrific though. That's one of the reasons why I want to get a new machine.
It's not going to run well, dude. I loaded up SimCity 4 on my hexa-core machine in there. It's still fucking 15 frames a second.
You don't think this new one might be
No
better
matter
optimized?
what, because the thing is, no matter what they do with that, they're gonna. It's like rendering 3D movies. No matter how much faster the computers get, they're always gonna spend 3 hours a frame rendering. No matter how much processor power and stuff you have on your PC, they can always figure out more threads and more shit to simulate and more. They'll just
Slider bars go on forever.
Yeah,
When the end of the slider bar is infinity,
yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
a PC capable system. You know,
I still want to play it. I love it. Oh my god, the amount of hours I used to put into SimCity. And I was never very good at it. I could never make those sprawling mega cities that like some people did. But
Have you ever gone?
so much fun.
Have you
you
watched
looked-
that video
Yeah.
with the optimized SimCity? There's a name.
Oh, the
for
guy
it.
that created like the
mega
perfect city.
Megalopolis.
Perfect city.
Yeah.
Insane.
He got the highest density that like he went through and tried thousands and thousands of different things.
Yeah.
and figured out how to make the most
Yeah,
dense.
I mean it was
possible in
Coruscant
City.
basically is what he had
Yeah,
created.
exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
Going back to 1313.
I feel like we're forgetting some stuff. New Super Mario Brothers. You looked awesome. I mean, it looks like. It's New Super Mario Brothers, just more.
We didn't stop by Activision at all.
It was Activision had two things. Skylanders and Call of Duty.
I used to wonder why Activision, as one of the biggest publishers out there, isn't up there with Ubisoft and EA and Sony and Microsoft doing these big presentations.
their own
And it's because they only have 2 fucking games.
well, but all the Blizzard stuff.
Blizzard. That's what
Yeah, but
it's
Blizzard
BlizzCon.
is a whole separate thing,
Yeah.
and Blizzard doesn't really show
No, they don't.
stuff in that way.
That's true.
So so Activision is now so contracted around Call of Duty, which I think in the end is going to end up going the way of Guitar Hero, because they're just going to throttle it to death, and eventually even the hardcore
It
Modern Warfare
sells
players
more
are gonna
every
say,
year
"Enough
so
for it."
far.
Let's see.
So far,
We will see.
the first year that the next one sells fewer copies than the previous one. Yes, you're
And
right.
and Skylanders, and then what? Like a bunch of shitty movie
they
licenses.
have Spider-Man and Tony Hawk and all the other brands that they've killed over the years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So
Spider-Man looked okay.
the Spider-Man games always look okay, and then they're terrible.
You're always bumping into the walls.
Right.
Well, the EA didn't really stop by EA's booth.
The big story out of EA, which I personally could not care less about, is I guess they have the UFC license now. That was a big deal.
Good thing I stayed away.
If you like, sweaty men writhing around on the
be
floor with each
careful.
other,
Be careful.
This is the game
Wait,
for
so
you.
is this a fight night, but with
I like fight night.
Bigger punches?
with MMA basically.
It's fight night with grappling.
okay?
Yeah, couldn't I understand that this is
We're
not.
gonna catch so much shit. For
This is not a trendy
podcast.
thing to say. I am not into UFC mixed martial arts.
either.
Doesn't appeal to me. If it does, then great.
I thought
EA generally make good sports
I thought
games.
Warrior was a fun movie, but
Oh boy, this is not the official stance of this.
what
is
you
only-
you love MMA?
No, he's just worried about.
I don't have enough.
He's just worried about being on the wrong side of
We've
the
said
trend.
we've said so
It's
much shit
fine.
that people are going to be pissed off
It's
about
fine
today.
to not be into UFC.
No. I'm not saying it's not fine to be into UFC. I'm just saying this is going to be a very controversial podcast. Any other games we want to talk about before
think
we
about the
move on?
Did EA have anything else that they were showing?
I saw
New
some,
FIFA. What Most Wanted. Now there is a list. There's,
right.
there's a game that's
Yeah.
on my list. Basically, anytime somebody said to me,
Anytime Criterion makes a racing game,
why don't they just do Need for Speed Burnout crossover? Need for Speed Paradise.
Because they have to license cars. The car licenses won't allow them to destroy them like they do in Burnout. That's the reason there's no crossover.
Well, you can't completely destroy them, but I mean, in Hot Pursuit, you could beat them up pretty
Yeah,
bad. Not
like
to the same
Burnout.
degree.
Do you not remember the demo that Criterion did of the car exploding into 50 million triangles before Burnout Paradise came out?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that Criterion is still, the Need for Speed franchise and is a powerful franchise.
good fit for
and
them.
Criterion is the best developer of driving racing games out there that there is.
Yeah.
and so it's a great combination. But
Well,
the pr-
okay,
the
of
price
arcade
that we-
racing games. Hold on, be careful because
Yeah,
we don't
not
want to say
hardcore simulation.
We're not talking about Forza. We're not
or
talking
Gran
about Gran
Turismo,
Turismo. We're not
then
talking,
those things are good
not
as well.
talking
But if you
about,
just want to play arcade style
Codemasters.
driving, Criterion are the best.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's great that they are now attached to that fantastic franchise. The price that we pay is for right now. They have had to shelve Burnout, which is really what we
Well,
want.
but here's if you look at it the other way, and if you look at it, EA's history of closing studios that are making games that don't sell millions and millions of copies, had they not been on the Need for Speed games, Criterion could have gone away.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was
bizarre.
Yeah.
In the overall picture,
Well,
it was
that was
the
Microsoft.
right move for all
was
concerned.
Activision.
Oh, Activision, yeah. Or what was the company that did Mercenaries and Saboteur?
That was another EA. That was Pandemic.
That was Pandemic.
Most
yeah.
Wanted looked great though.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So that's a sequel to
Basically,
the first Need for Speed game for the Xbox, right?
It basically, it was a Most Wanted, I believe, was a
open
360, was a
world.
launch title on 360.
It's the one where you had all the street races and you had to work your way up the ladder.
So
or whatever.
what this looks like is basically Hot Pursuit, but with open world. Which I'm all
perfect.
over that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
billboards. Capcom had stuff there. Didn't really see Resident Evil. Square Enix, Lara Croft didn't really see.
What's the new Gears game?
We didn't see that
I
at
didn't
all.
see anything
It's
on that.
not Gears 4. It's just like the new God of War. It's
like Gears
they finished-
3.5 or
They
whatever.
finished a trilogy. It's like Halo Reach.
I don't buy the whole three. Like I don't know, that whole thing feels like the whole nobody wants to call them fours because you don't have fours inside the same generation. That seems a little bit weird to
Well,
me.
Halo 4.
Well, right, because they're making 3 more of those. They've committed to 3 more on the 343 side.
Yeah.
The Studio Ghibli game.
Yeah, that looks interesting. Star Trek third person cover
I didn't even
shooter
know there was a Star Trek game coming out.
looked kind of grim. It's in the J.J. Abrams universe.
Okay.
Colonial Marines, we didn't see any of that.
Oh yeah, that's the game that's been in development for so long. I guess they kind of rewrote it to fit in the Aliens universe more.
Yeah, it's in canon with Prometheus.
Yeah.
is all we know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's it. I'm excited about Assassin's Creed. I'm excited about
Hitman.
I kind of want to play that. I didn't get to see Injustice. I kind of want to see what a dark Superman game looks like.
It's a sequel to whatchamacallit, to
Superman 64.
No, it's the sequel to
My favorite game ever.
MK versus DC.
I remember when Superman
Is it
64
a fighting game?
Isn't it? I think it is.
I remember when Superman 64 came out, and I was working in PC at the time,
We're
so
gonna
I
get
wasn't paying a lot of
eaten
attention to
alive.
console games. But I remember everyone going, "Oh my god, this is the worst game ever!" But I never played it.
It's real bad.
And it wasn't until I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd episode where he played it, where I was like, "Oh wow, it's so bad."
Yeah,
Like it's just impossibly like, how did they even fucking release this thing? It's embarrassing.
I want to go ahead and tell you, you might want to fire up the Wii because I think it's on Virtual Console.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
no way. I don't even want to play it.
It's memorable.
But it's shockingly bad.
Injustice is a fighting game. I totally knew
oh
that.
fuck, really?
Yeah, you know that? It's just
No.
MK. It's Mortal Kombat developers.
Boo.
What?
Oh,
Well,
really?
Jeff loves it because it's.
I'm fighting. The fighting game renaissance is done for me.
Superman's a big problem when it comes to
talked
fighting
about
games,
that.
isn't it?
Superman's a problem with games.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah.
Technology doesn't work.
David Jaffe doesn't believe that. We're on the Bombcast on Tuesday.
So tired.
Yeah, Norman's falling asleep over there.
Half asleep. So let's talk about.
Oh, we got to meet Max.
How about
Temkin.
let's
Yeah,
go transition.
Oh, hey, let's talk about what we have been testing. So we were on the Bombcast on Tuesday, and we got to meet Max.
You sat
Temkin.
next to David Jaffe,
Yeah.
and I sat next to Max Temkin, who's one of the creators of Cards Against Humanity, which is why
Ah.
this is in what we've been testing. Because
Oh, yeah, we got to play it.
with Leo. So the
Finally,
four of us
the four of us.
played Cards Against Humanity.
You started off skeptical, Gary.
And I'll be honest, by the end of it, I wasn't completely won over, but I had fun, and I feel like the more you play it,
With
you know,
the
it
fun-
really it comes down to the quality of the people that you're playing with,
Yeah.
and the cards that get drawn in that game.
Yes.
And you know, you could have a dull game, but you could have a fucking hilarious game as well.
The thing that after talking to Max and a couple of the guys, we met a couple of the guys who worked on the game. The thing that became clear from them and for what they said about watching other people play and watching people test and all that is that it's really dependent on how involved. And this is what Norm said too. In fairness, when we were playing, is it depends on how involved you get filling in the blanks on the card, like filling in the backstory of the horrible card
and
that
selling
comes
the
up.
pairings
Exactly.
by creating a narrative, by telling a story.
Right, and I get that. I understand the part where you kind of discuss the cards,
Yeah.
and it can be
That's
a
what
trigger
they
for some
want.
interesting conversations. I didn't love the whole business of feeling like to get the best out of each round, you really have to read each card 4 different ways. It's a lot of repetition involved. Don't you
that's
think?
party rule, house rules.
I think that if that's the way you get people to start telling the story, then that's fine. if you're playing with people who don't need that exposition,
Right.
then that's okay too.
I mean, what they don't want is people just picking up the black card and the white cards, looking at it and saying, okay, I choose this one.
yeah, this one wins.
Yeah. That's what
No,
they
I
don't
get
want.
it.
I didn't realize because it was Kickstarter backed and kind of community created, but it really is just 8 dudes who from different parts of the country getting together after work hours and brainstorming crazy ideas to put on these cards. And they had a very serious process of what they want to put on both the white cards and the black cards, the prompt statements and the nouns.
Right, and very specific rules for how the prompts work and like the structure of the prompts, so that they make sure that they work with all the cards.
And also language. It's a linguistics challenge too, because the prompts are. I mean, the black cards are the genius. The white cards are kind of interesting. I mean, putting
But the white cards are just nouns for the most part.
they're just nouns, and then anyone can kind of come up with here's a dirty thing. And
Do we need to explain what Cards Against Humanity is at this point?
Apples to apples, but
Perverse apples to apples.
NC-17, and anyone can come up with rabies or
Explosive diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly on the white card. But having the prompts you can work so they fit with all the white cards. That is a
And to come up with as many as them that they have to do to fill out a big deck like that.
Yeah.
Having said that, even with all the great work they did, it is possible. And again, it really changed from round to round, but it is possible that you get a tee up card and everything in your hand nothing there really yields anything good.
Yeah.
Well, that's always...
but every now and again you'll get something that is terrific. And it's weird. I noticed this as well as you did. That oftentimes the next card you draw would have been great for what you just had.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing is that sometimes like you have 4 things in your hand and all of them would be fantastic, and you have to figure out which is the best story you can tell.
Yeah.
To make that possible.
Yeah.
I like the game a lot. I'd watched people play it a bunch, and I hadn't actually gotten to play really before, so it was fun to play the other day with you guys.
We still haven't played metagame, have we?
No. Do you have a copy?
I can acquire a copy. Metagame's the same idea, apples to apples style.
Okay.
But it's about video games.
How many? That's 2 people, right? With one kind of coach.
You can have multiple
3.
people. You just need one
teams.
judge.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's all it is about conversation because it's all opinion based. So the prompt cards will be which game has the best story, or which game has the best graphics, or which game has the most intense community.
Okay, so the meat of that game is just really the argument afterwards.
And it's all about the argument. And for video games, where people love to argue about video games,
right?
The discussion comes naturally, and that kind of discussion is what Max wants to get.
Yeah,
in Cards Against
Yeah,
Humanity.
this is what we should do with AirTime. Is we should use the AirTime person as the judge in the metagame.
Yeah.
Impartial third person.
I don't want random
What could possibly
people.
go wrong?
No,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing, since we're doing testing, we did get to test out a couple of new Lego kits that same day. So I would people are always asking me for Lego kit recommendations. I would very strongly recommend the Sup with Camel.
It was really good. It's kind of complex. It's hard.
The classic World War I fighter plane. Norm helped me finish it off. Great model. It looks fantastic. Fun to build. It's brand new. It just came out. It's a terrific model. I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to get into Lego. You built the slave one,
it's $100 bucks, right?
Yeah, it's on the higher end. The other one on the lower end is the new architecture model of Big Ben in the Houses of Parliament. It was also very very good. Smaller model, but fun.
So the slave one I really like. It has a lot of good stuff going for it. It has a Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
It really embraces the modern Lego ethos of you build a good model, it looks good, but also you can play with it.
Now, 2 things I love about this is when you tilt it, Boba Fett and the wings actually kind of tilt with it, so he's always aligned correctly. There's like a little gyroscope type action going on.
As
cool feat of
happened
engineering
with the Kenner toy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And I also love that there is actually a Han Solo minifig inside the carbonite that you can take
and
out.
You can slide that in.
There are a few things I don't like. One is that it comes with a Transdotion. I assume that this is
it's not a Gorn?
No, it's a Transdotion. Gorns
Why would
are
you
in
complain
the
about a
pack.
free bonus minifig? Basically?
Well, because it's he's supposed to help you load Han Solo into the back of the Slave One, but he was never on Bespin.
Is that Bosk? Who is that?
It's Bosk.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the carbonite Han Solo. I don't know
It
if
looks
you guys
great.
probably can't see that on the camera here, but he tucks in the back. I don't like that it has the bullshit landmine thing, space mine from the prequels that pops out here.
Yeah.
That makes
Anytime
me
I
a little
build a
bit sad.
kit where they've added on some of the special edition prequel stuff, I just don't build those pieces.
That's a good move. I like that. I approve of that. But yeah, so the space mine, I'm just going to throw that away.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do.
And then it has a bunch of cool stuff. Like it has multi-fire. It has a semi-automatic like photon torpedo.
Oh yeah,
launcher,
I
proton
was
torpedo
actually quite
launcher.
impressed by that.
It was pretty. I think these are actually supposed to be concussion missiles, but whatever. It's quite a good kit. I'm
Yeah,
fond.
it's a great kit. And Leah's just been building the vampire castle, which is part of Lego's new Monster Fighters range, which is various. There's a werewolf, there's a Frankenstein kit, various different Lego iterations of like classic kind of monster movie things. They're fun as well.
I built the submarine, Japanese submarine.
Oh, and of course you built
yeah.
the Japanese Kusu sub.
Loved
Yeah,
it.
that was beautiful.
It's
model.
really nice.
Gorgeous.
Really great.
It'll look great in the office. Temporary loan from the collection of Norman
You
Chan.
still have the satellite to go.
Yeah, I want to do something special with that. I'm gonna figure something out soon.
I think I'm done. I'm done buying Lego for the camel was really the last big thing that I wanted.
Unless the B-wing comes
The
out.
B-wing that's obviously I'm holding that in reserve if it does come out.
wild
But
card.
I'm not interested in the Jabba the Hutt sets that are coming. They seem kind of lame.
No Lego Java.
Don't need it.
Hut sex.
else
Anything
have
else
we-
we've been testing?
We have a bunch of technology that we've also been testing, stuff that we're doing quick looks for. We're going on a lot of
Probably early
trips.
next week. Yeah, we're traveling a lot in
so,
June. So this is worth mentioning. Traveled a lot in June. It's with the two of us. It's real hard to get a bunch of stuff up on the site on days that we're traveling. We did a bad job of this. We'll try to do better in the future.
There's
But there will be
guaranteed new
reduced-
video every day.
Yeah, new videos and reduced posting on days that we're traveling. We're gone again next Monday, next Tuesday and Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
And Thursday.
Oh yeah, and Thursday now too. So yeah. Anything else? Oh, I got my 5N. I got my Sony camera.
Very cool.
I have been thoroughly enjoying that. It's I got
The new one?
No, I didn't get the new one. I got one up from Norm. I got the one that came out last August.
Oh, so we all have the mirrorless now.
Yeah, we're all on board.
That's a good camera.
It is it's mine's a little bit bigger than Norm's. More or less the same sensor.
Exactly the same sensor.
A little bit faster image processing, I think.
Higher ISO.
I quite like it.
1080p.
I think it's pretty rad. And I've been taking a lot of pictures lately, and I'm posting them to Instagram. And you took a really cool picture of me yesterday at the Aliens booth. That's it for what we've been testing.
Oh no, I'm not done. I've been playing that pandemic game, which is fun.
There's another pandemic. There is a game called Pandemic that I played. That basically it's the Flash game, right?
Yeah, well, there was one called Pandemic years ago and has been around for a while, where basically you create a disease,
Yeah.
and you try to kill off
a disease
the human
RPG.
population with it.
Yeah, this is more of a puzzle game. This new one, right?
Well, so what? Yeah, well, no, it's the same, basically the same fucking thing. What I was just browsing around the iPad App Store the other day, and I noticed that it was the number one. It was on the top. I go to look see what the top selling
so do
games
I.
are, and it was the number one game. It's 99 cents. So I like these kind of games. I'll give it a try. And I've been kind of hooked on it. It's called Plague Inc. And you start a virus or whatever, and you can evolve it and create different symptoms and different ways in which the virus will transmit itself. And and the human population of the world will try to combat against it and immunize the population and close seaports and try to basically do all the things that you do when you contain a virus outbreak.
Is Madagascar and Iceland, they're the hard ones to get.
For some reason, Canada is the hard one to get in this game.
Oh, Canada.
But it's fun, and I've really it's not perfect. It's a bit buggy, as often these 99 cents games
Yeah, of
are. They're not
course.
as polished as you might always want them to be. But I've been playing it a lot, and it actually led me to I've had the disc sitting around for a long time with the Steven Soderbergh movie Contagion that came out last year about kind of global virus outbreak.
Oh, I really liked Contagion.
I really enjoyed it.
So when Gina and I were both really sick,
Yeah.
sick enough to go to the doctor. 'cause
Yeah.
I have to be pretty near dead to go to the doctor. But I woke up with a fever and just felt awful for
Right.
4 days in a row. Went to
Right.
the doctor, and they did all these tests. They did the flu test where they jammed the thing right up your nose and scrape the inside of your sinuses.
Yeah,
That was awful.
yeah.
And then they came back and they're like, "Yeah, we have no idea what you have. So just good luck." And then we watched Contagion that night.
Oh,
So
God.
that was real dumb. But
Well,
that movie's really good.
If you're in any way one of these people that is weird about germs or hand sanitizing and stuff, I mean, this is the ultimate horror nightmare. Because one of the things they really
well, they do the CDC thing.
well they really show just how easily stuff is transmitted. Like you touch something, someone else comes along, I hand you a drink, I swipe your credit card. This stuff, it proliferates in a really scary way when it's a very robust virus.
The scene at the end where they reconstruct the path of the virus from the source vector to Gwyneth Paltrow is terrifying.
yeah.
So that was good.
And what was truly scary about it, what I thought was very interesting, is it looked at all aspects of it. That at one point, there's a kind of a blogger character played in it by Jude Law, who may or may not be spreading the truth or misinformation, who you don't really know about the virus and and the cure. And of course, the true pandemic is actually the panic, right? The real danger is the looting and the riots and the society breakdown of there's only so many immunizations out there, and people are freaking out, looting pharmacies and stuff, and it becomes very kind of post-apocalyptic very quickly.
So after I tweeted about watching that, a couple of readers who work in different communicable disease fields like virology and stuff like that said it's actually very accurate. The movie is very accurate in the way things would spread and the R factors and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I learned all about R naughts. That was really interesting.
The only thing that he said was untrue about that movie is the length of time it would take to create a vaccine.
And that was the same case with Outbreak.
Well,
they just found the monkey and they had the vaccine immediately.
Yeah, he said on this the vaccine would likely, I think they said it was 18 months until there was vaccine, and then spread out over the course of a year or something to get it to everyone. He said in the real world it would take probably more like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, but I think one of the things they addressed is that when they have a really, really serious outbreak like that, a lot of the safeguards and a lot of the protocols, they'll just bypass it because they got to get something quickly, right? Well, they don't have the luxury.
No, you got to be careful because you could kill everybody on the planet doing that.
Right. Well, because I don't want to spoil it, but in the movie they do some shortcuts to get to the vaccine and get it out there.
Yeah, but what he said,
even then they're saying like, well, we don't know 10 years from now, maybe everyone will have cancer. We don't know, but we needed to cure this thing now.
Yeah, the point he made was that there's no way that would happen, even in the worst case, in fewer than 3 or 4.
But I love any kind of movie like that where not just end of the world stuff, but like for me the scenes that were most interesting were like inside the CDC, where you see like how they handle these super infectious agents and the crazy degrees of sanitation and the suits that have the air piped into them and stuff.
The positive pressure suits.
Yeah, really interesting.
If you like that stuff, my fantastic book about that's kind of based on real life, but maybe a little dramatized, is called Crisis in the Hot Zone. It's about Ebola, which is a much less communicable disease than the flu or something like that. You have to have bodily fluid transfers. But it's about an Ebola outbreak in a monkey house in Reston, Virginia. And I don't want to spoil it, but basically you can drive by that place still. It's totally sealed up and like everything's been done to it except for being encased in a block of concrete.
Right.
Because the fear is that it's about aerosolized Ebola, which would be really bad.
Yeah. It's the
plot of Outbreak.
It was actually the most interesting part of the Tom Clancy book Rainbow Six, where like the crazy motherfuckers in that book, what they're trying to wipe out humanity using the kind of variant of like an Ebola type virus. And what's scary there is obviously it's not just something that happens naturally in nature. Like they design this thing to be as deadly as possible. And I thought if you remember, they actually had a really smart plan to
sprinklers.
Yeah, the sprinklers, the misters at the Olympics. Like so basically everyone from around the world is there. Mister. So they all get infected and then they all go home to their home country. So it basically breaks it everywhere at once.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
That's the true, I mean, we worry about nuclear bombs and stuff, but that's the true horror is like this is smallpox and things like that coming back.
There's more than enough horrors to go around.
Anyway, it's an area it makes me almost want to read a book about. I'm fascinated by, like you said, kind of epidemiology. What's the deal with the suit? So in Contagion they had these suits where there's actually kind of airflow through the suits. What's the deal with that?
Okay, so the way it works is there's different levels of protection against what communicable diseases. The lowest level is stuff that is not communicable to humans, right? So things like swine diseases that only occur in animals or whatever, right? Or that require direct specific kinds of contact.
Right.
So in those places you wear like goggles and the mask and gloves and you follow specific procedures. You go up a notch to things that are communicable to people, and then you start wearing the over the hood respirators and things like that. You go up a couple more levels and it's things that are basically instantly deadly that they don't know how they're transferred, or that they're transferred through air contact with the eyeballs, any kind of mucous membrane, any kind of skin contact, things like that. So those big poofy suits, what they do is they keep the lab is at negative pressure compared to the rest of the world. So the air pressure inside the lab is slightly lower than the outside world, and there's airlocks coming in and out. So there's completely sealed environments. The air coming out is filtered and exposed to UV and fire and all sorts of stuff like that before it gets to the outside. So it kills anything that goes through the air filtration system. But if there's a breach, like if a window breaks, the air comes from the outside world into the lab, not from the lab into the outside world.
That's cool. Yeah.
The suits, the big poofy suits, are the reverse of that. So inside the suits, it's higher pressure than the inside the lab. So you put that suit on, and if you get a tear in the suit, the air goes out of the suit, not in from the lab.
And there were, again, lots of little fascinating details. Like you see how they did like the little puncture test first on the suits. They would fill the suits to like full. So they look like big balloon men to make sure there were no,
holes.
little holes or anything in the suit that could be dangerous.
When they do things like you put the suit on, then you tape the legs of the suit to the boots of the suit and all sorts of stuff like
just
that.
completely sealed in.
It's like space suits, but backwards, basically. So,
it's fascinating. I like those movies that, like, the kind of the Hollywood versions are fun. But so in Contagion, the worst case scenario is 1% of people in the world will die, which doesn't really sound that apocalyptic by Hollywood standards. But it's actually the more real world version of it is
600 million people.
Yeah, it's about
60 million people.
60 million. And then by the end, they're saying like maybe one in 12 people will be infected. But and it's only and in the movie it only had like a 25 to 30%. Like you could still get it, and only 1 in 4 people that got it would actually die. But again, the real danger is you actually end up with more people getting stampeded and killed in riots and panic and stuff like that than you do. Like fear is like at one point the character says to Jude Law, like that's the real virus, is this fear that you're spreading. And I thought was really interesting.
I think that I can't remember, but I think that the model for the disease that was in Contagion was the 1916 swine flu outbreak. Like that was the mimic. That was the basically what they used for the model disease, the fake disease that they made.
Right.
But then you look at something like Ebola or some of the hemorrhagic fevers from Africa, and the mortality rate, if you're infected, is like 90% plus. And the interesting thing that happens there, and I say interesting in the grim sort of interesting, is that the diseases burn out, like they kill people too fast to spread the disease widely.
Right.
So you get it, you're dead 5 days later. The scary thing about flu is you get it and you're contagious for 3 or 4 days before you start showing symptoms.
Right.
So in this case, Gwyneth Paltrow can wipe out at 1% of the world. In the case of Contagion, it's interesting stuff. The people who do that are real.
Well, and that was the other part of it that was really fascinating, was kind of like the forensic, figuring out where it came from and how it transmitted and who the index patient was. Like the investigative side of it was also really fascinating.
Well, and the local politics and all. I mean, there's a whole lot of terrifying stuff out of that whole.
And that whole side of basically there's a whole bunch of basically investment bankers and hedge fund guys that are trying to figure out which stocks should we be investing in so we can make money out of this? Seriously.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is that the local governments don't want to be seen as the source of one of the diseases, and there's all sorts of. It's a terrifyingly complex.
Yeah. But they obviously did a lot of research. I thought it was just the little details were fascinating. Like how there's only so much vaccine to give away, or they can't give it away all at once. So they did a lottery where if you're bought basically one day, it was over the course of a year
birthday.
And a random birthday every year, and people are kind of watching TV to see where their number would be up. And when you would get the vaccine kit, it had it was like a little aspirator that went up your nose, and both nostrils, you got the vaccine. Yep. And then it also came in the kit a little wristband with a barcode that you would put on, and you could walk around, and you couldn't really go anywhere. Like at shopping malls, they had soldiers that would scan your barcode before you could be allowed back into a public area. To prove that you had it.
One of a book that I've been reading lately that does a really good job of explaining the impact of martial law and epidemiology on this is the Miranda Grant books. These were one of her second book in this series. It's a zombie book. Was one of the ones nominated for a Hugo this year, and I thought, oh shit, a zombie book is nominated for a Hugo, and then I read the books and they're fantastic. But it goes into the level of testing that you would if there was a zombie outbreak where you could be infected and not immediately turn. And then spontaneously become a zombie later. The level of testing, the epidemiology stuff seems very real.
Those best kind of books are the ones that are they're thought experiments, or they're
thought experiment.
Simulations. Yeah. Like in the same way we love simulators, like these books.
Well, I mean,
do a very good job.
The more grounded it is, the more interesting it is to me. Like The Walking Dead and all that kind of stuff is great. Obviously, it's a bit out there, and in that case, there really wasn't any chance of a response. Or like the Will Smith I Am Legend movies, you see little bits of how they tried to respond and blowing up the bridges and stuff and scanning people's eyes, but obviously they ended up getting overwhelmed. But it is interesting. I mean, it's fascinating to me that somewhere, places like the CDC and WHO, these plans are sitting there for crazy scenarios like this.
Yeah,
they have to have
plan.
something in place. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, no, if not zombies, something like it, like crazy, the 28 days later virus or whatever, where it just spreads so fast. Anyway, I thought it was a fascinating subject. I kind of want to learn more about
Contagion was really good. Read Crisis in the Hot Zone. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Keep armed and carry on.
Exactly. do you want to do? Actually, we're running way late today, so I'm going to skip questions. We'll come back and do a bunch of questions next week. I'll save the ones that we're sending this week. Send me more questions. I appreciate you guys coming down as always. We have offices. I mean, we haven't moved in yet, but
When's that going to be?
Well, we've got to get. Joey and I went and met the contractor who's going to do the studio stuff for us today. We got to get furniture and all that stuff and internet wired in there. So it'll be a few more weeks.
But is it like ready to move in, or is it just like a space?
No. There's carpet and the walls are painted and all that. We have to get the studio. We have to get the special needs stuff that we need, like the furniture and the studio stuff set up.
So this is in the city.
But yeah, it's in the city, undisclosed location for right now.
A secure location.
Yeah, but we're excited and we're in a cool neighborhood and looking forward to be back downtown and not recording out of the living room here.
Cold Pacifica.
It is cold. Yeah, you never wear a jacket. I always tell you got to bring a jacket, man. You're gonna have a bad time. That'll do it for us this week. Norman, Gary, anything to plug?
Episode 2 of The Walking Dead will be out soon, hopefully.
Okay.
Very pleased to see that it got nominated for some Best of E3 awards just this week.
Cool. And to get that, like if you're in the Xbox version, it's a downloadable. It's a DLC. It's treated as a DLC.
It's all DLC.
Okay. And I think if you bought it on Steam, you already have it, right?
If you bought the PC version, you prepaid for the whole season, and you'll just get the episodes as they're released.
And then I don't know how the PS3 one works.
And I'm working on episode 4 right now, which I'm very excited about.
Cool. Awesome. Well, can't wait to play that. Norm, anything?
Recorded an awesome podcast with Adam.
Oh yeah.
It's on Monday.
It's the first episode of the as yet untitled Adam Savage project.
Be sure to watch that. It's on YouTube. It's on Tesla.com, and also we have more from his man cave.
Yeah, and so people know we're going to dump those in the. This is only a test RSS feed for the time being. We've got to do some tech stuff to get 2 RSS feeds going, but that'll happen in the not too distant future, and we'll have it on iTunes.
Why wouldn't you want more?
Yes, it's double the podcast. Double. Yeah, I don't have anything to plug. That's it. We were on the Bombcast on day 1 E3. If you want to listen to that, the second half.
Were there any classic kind of train wreck moments or anything this year on the Bombcast?
That fucking house is just really that's the train wreck.
David
the crack house. It's almost part of the Giant Bomb brand.
Yeah,
at this point.
I see a future where they have a big third of the GameSpot booth at E3, and it's just like decorated to look like a crack house. Like there's vials,
pretty
and broken
much
glass, and beer bottles, and.
David Jaffe's saying that game development used to be unionized, so it's like making movies where low
you had
level
your
people,
opportunity to call him out on
I
this
was
bullshit.
Extremely tired, and also I was didn't want to interrupt. No one interrupts David Jaffe.
You're afraid of Jaffe, is what you're saying.
Terrified of him.
You can't be afraid of Jaffe. He's a great guy. You just gotta
he had some
engage him on his level.
Interesting opinions about how game development should be done.
The thing about Jaffe is he's a dude who is really easy to he is as a person who is easy to quote
exactly
out of context.
What he is saying. It just came out extremely weird because the example he gave was, and obviously me having zero game development experience, it could be absolutely the right thing. But he said, in Hollywood, when a director makes a movie, everyone knows their place. Everything's unionized. Director's not going to touch the lighting. Cinematographer's going to work on the camera. And if the second gaffer comes up to the director and says, hey, I think you should change the plot this way, that dude's going to get fired. He wants that to happen in game development. It's basically what he said.
I as somebody who is easy to be misquoted, the context was we were having a conversation about how indie games are more personal than mainstream games that 300 people work on. And the reason that happens is that Phil Fish and another dude worked on Fez for 5 years.
Singular vision.
Versus 600 people probably touched the last Assassin's Creed game.
I think that game developers should be able to organize, just like people in any other creative business are able to. But I don't think I'm not coming at it from where David is, where he wants to be able to just fire people,
right?
Because they've dared to speak
because
to
they
him.
Annoyed him. Don't no eye contact, please.
Trust me. When a director fires someone on a movie set, they don't need union power to be able to do that. It's because they are the boss.
Right. Well, and there's the movie game parallel. We talked about this a little bit. The movie game parallel is a bad parallel because movies are shot in 3-6 months at the outside, and games take 2 or 3 years in a lot of cases when you're talking about.
Right, but like for example, as a movie writer or a TV writer, I cannot be exploited by the industry because there is a union that protects me, and we have collective bargaining, and there is what we call the minimum basic agreement, which says that I cannot be paid less than a certain amount of money for a certain amount of work. I cannot be asked to do this, that, or the other, and these are the rights that I have, and every studio and every major production company has to agree to that basic level of treating me with respect. Why shouldn't people who work in the games industry have that same thing?
I agree, but
Where jobs in the games industry are,
they'll just move
super
offshore.
tenuous, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they'll move everybody to Shanghai and
Well, why isn't Hollywood making all its movies in Shanghai then?
Well, George Lucas made a bunch of his movies in weird places because he had a few. He's not a member of the DGA, right? Isn't that what? Why is?
Well, I mean, Lucas is kind of an outlier in any regard, but it's not like we suddenly stop using American labor in movies.
I think game developers should have more rights, and
I mean, look at what just happened to 38 Studios. They may have had greater protection under some kind of union agreement.
Well, they had shitty businesses.
I mean, again, that is a terrible
Yeah.
situation. But we see people in the movie business in the game business getting laid off left and right
Fucked
all the time.
Yeah.
The other interesting.
THQ just shut down a whole studio E3 week in the hope that E3
Nobody would
nobody would
notice.
notice. Of course, everybody did.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing that David Jaffe said was that he really doesn't like the way free-to-play model works right now.
Well, he cited some specific examples of
that
things
I
where
could,
you like
I could totally
chop
agree
off.
with.
Yeah.
Where if you pay the $60, it's a lot of money up front, but then the money you spend is out of mind, and you get to enjoy mechanics.
Yeah, it's like going to an all-inclusive resort.
I think it was either Evan or Josh, or one of those guys tweeted something about how they're kind of tired of free-to-play being used as a pejorative. It's like, as soon as you say free-to-play, people just assume that's like a stepping stone to your extinction. Like, oh, the model's not working, we have to start giving the game away. That's not necessarily true. Team Fortress, World of Warcraft, lots of successful games have gone free-to-play, but it is still...
I would argue that Team Fortress went free to play after everyone who
There was just no one left to sell it to. Yeah, I get
has
that.
already
And-
bought it.
And that's maybe true of Warcraft as well. But like the news that, for example, that the Old Republic is going free to play very quickly, very hard to look at that as, they're already kind of worrying about how many people are really paying to play this game.
The MMO situation, Pactor had some good things to say about MMOs and the cost of development. And I mean, the thought is that EA spent upwards of $200 million making and marketing the Old Republic, and has captured 1.4 million subscribers with arguably the best IP in the world. I think that MMOs that have been in development for the last 5 or 6 to 7 years, and we're expecting to hit the end and see $10 or $15 a month from each user, are really boned.
I think
that's what happened to 38.
I think the difference is that if you design your game to be free to play, and there's other ways to make money built into the game from the ground up, that's one thing. But when you launch a game under one system and then 6 months later you say, oh, now it's free to play, clearly that's a reaction to the fact that your current model isn't working.
Yeah.
I think that's how it gets thrown around as a bad thing.
Hey, I'm going to play the music, and then let's jump into fake outtakes. Thanks for coming by, guys. We'll be back next Thursday with another podcast. To be continued. Oh, hey, today's outro is by Agent Monroe, who helped us an awesome amount at PAX last year. So thanks, Agent Monroe. I'm playing music. Hi there, I didn't see you.
Test it.
I grind incredibly fine and push. There's no dripping.
That's a good one.
That was pretty gross.
That is a very good
I
one.
thought that was good.
I like that a lot.
He did some editing there too. Sounded really nice in the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the MMO market is in a grim place, and I think that everybody was building MMOs after WoW's success, thinking it was a market that was going to grow and grow, and a lot of those people probably are playing Farmville and shit like that now instead.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that I'd be less likely to invest in than a new MMO venture.
Now, on the other hand, what I want to see
Panda Express. Panda Express, new MMO. Where's your money going?
I know it. Well, I know where it's going. Absolutely, the MMO is like the anti-Panda Express. Hey, what about a Panda Express MMO? What happens
are you
then?
guys talking about?
No one hates Panda Express, but it's whenever you go to a food court.
Yes.
It's Panda Express is the one place that has the fucking super long line. People go to Panda Express, and
I think that's 'cause
20
of
other
poor
places
service.
that no one else is in line for. And the thing is, you must really want it, right? Because if you're hungry, you're at the food court. There's Great Steak and Potato Company. There's Sparrow. There's this. There's that. There's the other. And no one's standing in line for these things. They're all at Panda Express. They're all saying, "I don't want any of this other food that I could get immediately. I want to wait 15 minutes." For Panda Express.
But part of that is the line effect, because like
No,
that's
no.
not it.
When you go to the mall, you want the shortest line.
If the three of us go out and just stand in line in front of a closed door downtown San Francisco, I guarantee you 20 people within a half hour will walk up and say, "Hey, what are you guys in line for?"
Right, but not when the
Well, yeah, but when it's Panda Express, it's obvious what you're in line for.
Yeah,
It's not like some
exactly.
super trendy secret nightclub that people are trying to get into.
I've got an idea. Let's set up a Panda Express sign outside a closed door, and just stand there and be like, "Yeah, we're waiting for Panda Express."
Yeah,
See how many people get in line.
No
behind us.
No one.
I don't like Panda Express. I haven't eaten at Panda Express since we moved out of Sausalito.
I don't dislike Panda Express.
Well, you eat. It is well established that you'll eat anything.
Well, I can't really eat there anymore, but I do every now and again. I do, it's not great Chinese food, but
I would even argue that it's not really even Chinese food.
Agree.
Hey, I realized
they must be doing something right.
I spent some time thinking
They
about
put
it.
the orange and the chicken together.
Yeah.
I spent some time thinking about it, and I realized why I'll eat at Denny's, and I think Chili's is garbage.
Go on then.
I broke it down. The difference is when the food truck brings supplies to Denny's, what they bring are eggs and bacon and pieces of bread and like oatmeal that needs to have water added to it. They bring components of food.
Okay.
When the truck rolls up to Chili's, what it brings is a box of frozen Southwest egg rolls. It brings a bag of Southwestern salad.
How do you know this?
Because I've watched the fucking truck roll up to Chili's. And I know that there's not, they can't train people to put all the shit that's into Southwest egg rolls together. That shit comes fried. Chili's is selling food that is.
I disagree because the food at Chili's is not brilliant, but nor is it something that just came out of a fucking microwave. Like it actually looks like food that has been prepared.
It goes from the freezer into the fryer. It's like farm to table, but
like
different.
a plate of food.
Yeah, it has to. They take the components and then they assemble it onto a plate of food. Denny's, God rest them, they take an egg and crack it on the skillet.
I'm sure we've got people in the audience that either
Settle
work
this
or
for
have
us.
worked at like a
This is
Chili's
true.
or an Applebee's or a TGI's.
Or Denny's.
If you have firsthand knowledge of what goes on in those kitchens, let us know. I'd like to know.
Yep, the more we know. And you can see Denny's. You can see them cooking at Denny's. It's just a big ass skillet. It's a hot top.
Yeah, I know that's another thing that I'm fascinated by is kind of the time and motion of restaurant kitchens. Logistics and stuff is again I'm not
It's
good
like
at it,
Apple.
but I'm fascinated by it. But especially like short order cooks, they've got such a system going. It's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
'Cause I don't know how they do it. It's like how do they know to have this much
How do
prepared?
you keep that kind of stuff, that much stuff going? Like,
I mean, are they just constantly rolling food in the assumption that it's going to keep getting ordered? They're not making food to order.
They make food to order, but they'll have 17 orders going at once. It's a real skill.
But like, for example, if you work in a breakfast place, you're presumably just always making eggs, right? Because people are going to be keep ordering.
But eggs don't hold. Like you
I
can't
guess
keep eggs
that's
warm.
true. That's true. And it only takes a second to make
It
an
takes
egg, so
3
it's not a
minutes
big
to make
deal.
an egg, yeah.
Breakfast food's pretty easy.
Yeah. So the things that'll keep going all the time are like hash browns. I'm sure there's hash browns.
Oh yeah. You see that if you oftentimes when they've got those open kitchens, you can peek over and just see a massive pile of hash browns like in the corner of the grill.
The end of the world over there.
Yeah.
We had some really good sushi. Norm had pinkberry twice in one day while we were in LA.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I kind of jealous of that. And I also hate it because Norm just gets the plain pinkberry. It just seems like such a waste.
What's wrong with him?
Best.
Just go eat some Greek yogurt.
The
Put some
best.
sugar in it. You're done.
Yeah, that's like going to a really good breakfast place and just ordering cereal.
Yeah, I just want some
Just a bowl of
Flakes.
cereal.
I get toppings and other frozen yogurt places to mask the crappy yogurt.
What toppings do you put on?
Blueberries, strawberries, and granola.
I like the granola topping. Yeah.
Do you want to hear the greatest injustice that's ever faced America? Ever?
Slavery.
Other than that, the crepe bits are no longer at Pinkberry.
What's that?
You can't get the little pieces of crepe anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, right. They've replaced them with waffle cone bits, which is some garbage.
Well,
right
hold on.
there.
That's not bad either. But I used to love the crushed up crepe
the
bits.
crushed up pieces of crepe. That's something you can't get anymore.
But that doesn't bother me anymore because I just get, and it also annoys me the way they have the seasonal flavors. Because like just as I was getting into coconut, summer started to go away. Oh, we don't have coconut anymore. We have this now.
Watermelon.
But the PB&J pinkberry to me is just the shit. That's so good with the little toasty pieces on top.
Yeah.
Oh, and we went to, so it was free donut day. It was National Donut Day this
Oh,
week.
why would you go to get free donuts on National Donut Day? That's the worst idea ever. Pay the $2.
As Jimmy Fallon would say, hopefully this will really help get the word out about donuts. But it wasn't actually that bad because they didn't advertise it. You don't put up signs saying free donuts inside because obviously that's how you get the contagion situation. But it is known that it is free donut day. And sometimes
it is known.
It is known, Khaleesi. Sometimes when we go by the Dunkin' Donuts, when that light is on that says, we're making them
You
right
mean the
now.
Krispy Kreme?
Sorry, Krispy Kreme. When you go by the hot fresh donuts,
Hot and fresh.
And our Krispy Kreme is great. You get to see the donuts coming right off the
donut machine.
Yeah. And because it's summer, they have a key lime donut.
Gross.
And a Mrs. Fields right now has a key lime cookie, both of which were fantastic.
I assume the key lime cookie is like a little tart, whereas the key lime donut is a filled donut with
Actually,
key lime
yes, but
jelly
it has
inside.
graham cracker crumbles on top.
I'm out. I don't want anything to do with that.
That doesn't interest you?
No, I like custard. I don't like whipped cream inside donuts. I want yellow custard with eggs in
The area down here, you know the one I'm talking about, that has the Krispy Kreme and the In-N-Out right
Daly
next to one
City.
another. That is like goddamn Shangri-La.
I want to go ahead and tell you that In-N-Out though. I don't like that In-N-Out.
Really? Aren't they all basically the same?
Well, they
all the
are
same.
usually, but the fries are no good at that one for whatever
No,
reason.
it's the
I've never
same.
known. That's the same.
The fries are undercooked.
When Will says fries, it's euphemism. Will's totally being racist.
What the fuck are you even talking about?
It's
The fries.
Shangri-La. It's a great combination. While you're
It
waiting for
is.
your In-N-Out order, go get a donut.
Yeah, walk right across the street, and it's the perfect dessert.
Perfect
Do you think if you went to In-N-Out first and got a donut and cut it in half and took it in and told them to make your In-N-Out burger on the donut, they'd do it? I want this donut as a bun.
No, I don't think they would do it, but there's nothing to stop you.
all the ham.
But there's nothing to stop
all
you
the
doing it.
ham.
I guess you could do that.
Hey, you want to go get In-N-Out and Krispy Kreme after
No,
this podcast?
God, no.
This is like a weird.
We
This
started
is
with
actually
food?
making me not hungry.
Yeah,
we
I feel
ended
kinda
with
sick
food.
and hungry all at the same time.
Oh.
Let's see. We had.
Why can't we talk about Bake Car?
Oh, okay, we can talk about. Fuck it. Let's talk about bake. I didn't want to talk about bake.
Oh, by the way, what is this? It does look like a swear jar. What is that?
That's
Is that
the-
for
that's
cray
the
cray?
CC
when I
that's the
say the
CC
things
jar.
that I can't say, that's where I put my dollar.
Wait.
And is that just cray cray, or is there a whole list of things?
just the one word?
That-
And how much do you have to
Cray.
put in each time?
$1.
Oh, that's not that much.
There's no slot at the top.
No, I have to open the jar. It's to remind me.
Oh, God. It's
It's to remind
like
me.
a photo of Fat Will in the fridge.
what?
Did we? Was this in the fuel band? Quick look.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I need motivation to remind me not to get fat, all I have to do is put a picture of me 2 years ago in the freezer. 3 years ago,
Oh,
I
I
guess
see.
now.
I guess I could do that.
Yeah.
I've got some pictures of me. Leah had a picture of me that she didn't want to show me when I was fat, but she showed it to me recently.
Oh.
And it's one of those pictures where you look at it and you go, oh my God.
Yeah, what did I do?
Yeah.
How did I let this happen?
Yeah.
Bake car.
Bake Car. So I saw 2 episodes last night. What a show. What a great show. Do you want should we just summarize it real quickly?
So here's the idea of bake car.
But it has technology, so we can talk about this.
Oh, it's
We're also in fake outtakes, so we can talk about
we
it.
can talk about
whatever
whatever we want. Here's the thing about bake car. Basically, they found a way to make cops without the domestic violence,
But it still has some violence in it occasionally.
but without the domestic
There's the
violence.
chasing. That's the
Yes.
most important part.
Yes.
The chasing.
So True TV, what used to be Court TV, has a bunch of these cop style reality shows. And in Bake Car, there is
Such a stupid idea.
there is a program that many police forces have now where they basically rig a car
Yeah,
with all this technology, which I'll get to in a second. They leave it on the street
usually with the keys in it and the door
with
open.
the keys in it, or the door open, or the window open, and they'll put it in a high crime area.
Yeah.
And it's usually a nice car, like a pretty decent car.
Yeah.
And, without fail, very quickly, people will start snooping
according
around
to
it.
us, from what we see,
Right. And they're not going to wonder, but they also show the ones where, they also show the ones where, like, Good Samaritans will come and, like, park the car or try and find the owner or be nice. But most of the time, the car's going to get stolen.
yeah.
And the one I saw last night, they had a PlayStation and all kinds of shit in the back trying to get people to go for
Wow.
it.
Oh, my goodness. How is that not entrapment?
It's not entrapment, but for the same reason that drug busts aren't entrapment.
Because the guy's not saying to you, "Hey, do you want hey, do you want this car?"
Yeah.
Like they're just leaving it there.
Yeah. Like the option could be to park the car, take the keys to the police station, and say, "Hey, this car," and that's usually the bad defense.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
If you
Obviously legally,
like-
in the states in which they're doing it legal, they obviously are doing it legally.
It seems like they have to get intent to steal a lot of times because they let them drive far enough to.
They
see
have
that
to
they're
wait
not
until
taking
they've
to a
driven it
police
far
station or
enough
something.
away.
right, because
Yeah.
it's not illegal for me to, if I see keys in the car, to take the keys out and lock the doors of the car
Right.
and close it.
Or if it's left somewhere that is inconvenient, to just park it somewhere else where it's out of the way, which some people have
Right.
done, and they wait to see if they're going to go that far before
Good
they'll do it.
Samaritan law.
So, but this is the fun part. So they'll wait for. Then the car is heavily rigged.
Yeah.
with
So the
technology.
car. Basically, what happens
It's
is
got
when
cameras all over the car, inside and out.
when the cop presses a button, as a general rule, the doors lock. You can't get out. It's like child locks all around, and they kill the ignition.
Well, no. So
they just have
the
to
door
coast.
the door locks as soon as the car is armed. It's like a roach motel. Is
Oh,
how they
the
describe
roaches
it.
go in,
You
but
can
the
get
roaches
in, but the
can't
door
get
will
out.
not open. The door will not open again until someone opens it from the outside. But they're driving around It's obviously got all kinds of GPS trackers on it. They know exactly where the car is, how fast it's going, where it is on the street. They're monitoring it all the time. They can't really lose it.
Yeah.
And then they press one button and it shuts off the engine. The car is just completely immobilized. And then the cops will come and arrest the guy and, he'll go to jail.
Sometimes the technology fails.
And oftentimes the criminal will say, oh, but I was just, trying to take it somewhere. But, of course, they've got the guy on camera going, whoop-de-doo, I'm going to steal this car.
Right.
And
hey, man, I just got a Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah. And it's, it's trash TV, but it is kind of fun to watch.
Well, here's the thing. You feel bad until they tell you what the people that they catch have done. And it's usually like people with like 40 felonies and ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, they're all
rap
career
sheets.
criminals, yeah.
Not all. Some of them are just dumb. A lot of them are just real dumb.
I actually felt bad for some of the young, there was like some young teenage type kids that got in the car. And they really freak out. I feel kind of bad for them. I mean, they shouldn't have stolen the car.
The best ones, however, are when the guy gets in and he's like, "Do you think this is a bait car?" And he's like, "No, I don't think it's a bait car." And then they drive off anyway, and it turns out it's the bait car.
Turns out it was, yeah.
Or the guy that wants to start his rap career.
It's like people want to who actively look for Cash Cab, which unfortunately is no longer around. Like they're like,
well, no, you know what it is for me? It's because they don't do Cash a Predator anymore. This is now what I watch instead of that. And that had the same problem with the perverts that would show up at these houses, and Chris Hansen would come out and say, "Have you seen Dateline NBC Catch a Predator?" And they go, "Yes." Like, really? Yeah. And this didn't seem in any way fishy to you?
Oh boy!
You should be able to just arrest people for just criminal stupidity. That should be a crime.
Yeah, I mean the bad part about bait car is it is really going after the stupids. Like it is not like. All other socioeconomic stuff aside, the only people that you're going to catch with a door open with the keys in it and a guy that just runs off are people who are pretty dumb.
Yeah, but hey, we want them off the streets as much as the next guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all criminals. So I enjoy it. I've been watching. There was a marathon on it the other night, and I got Jeff Green got hooked on it. It was.
You're a bad person, Gary Whitta. You got me started on it.
It's not. Look, it's not good television.
It's not The Wire.
No. But I watch that stuff too. I enjoy The Wire and Game of Thrones and Mad Men and Breaking Bad
America's
and
Got Talent
and good shows. And on the other hand, I also enjoy America's Got Talent.
I like America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Nick Cannon is awesome.
Yeah, he's a good host.
He's like my second favorite host after Seacrest.
Yeah, and they've had some really impressive acts this year. I've been surprised by the quality of some of the talent acts. Really, really great.
The dogs.
Oh my God, there's dogs doing backflips. I literally never seen that in my life.
No,
a dog that could do
amazing.
backflips. It was amazing.
The freak show act on last week's episode.
I don't like those.
Oh, the freak shows, you can't watch them, but they're like when Howie and Sharon can't look away and Howard Stern is standing up giving a standing ovation. It's great TV.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Actually, I have to catch up on this week's episode.
Did you see the In a World Gone with the 90s movie announcer guy?
Yes.
In a World Gone Wild.
He was okay. I didn't think he was brilliant.
I just thought it was good because he came on. And
the novelty acts. It's kind of like, but it's like, yeah, I get that for like 2 minutes, but like, there's no act here. No one's going to pay to see your stage show.
Well, the thing that's good about that show is that they blow through. They'll give you just as much as you need of all the boring stuff, both good and bad.
Right.
Like if there's an amazing clogging group, you'll see 30 seconds of clogging. And you're like, oh yeah, that's some pretty fucking good clogging right there.
Yeah.
You can move on.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to see it just in the moment, but they're not necessarily people that are going to win and actually have a career.
You didn't like that guy that lifted shit with his eyelids? That was terrible.
No, I hated it. I couldn't watch. didn't like that at all.
What about the giant harp? The guy who made the entire auditorium.
The Earth Harp. Okay, that guy was amazing. And in fact, you need to get him on Tested.
Yeah, he's
Did you not see the Earth Harp?
No, Norm doesn't watch.
It was amazing.
The problem with those things is once they get them locked in there, we can't get them because they're on contract.
Oh yeah, I guess so. But I mean, but if that guy had come to you and said, "Look what I've made," you would want to put.
We
him
would
on
put
Tested.
him on Tested today.
You would love it. So Norm, what he basically did was he had like all these amazing strings that I mean, literally, he basically wired up the entire auditorium. Like the strings were going out over the audience and like were connected up to the balconies. And then he had like these massive kind of like welder's gloves.
Like leather gloves, yeah.
Yeah, and he could kind of play these harps, play these strings.
It was amazing.
It looked absurd, but the sound was unlike anything you'd ever heard. And it sounded fantastic. This guy had created a whole new kind of music that was just fucking great to listen to. I loved it. Yeah, and there's no, it's easy to mock up these stupid talent shows.